Chapter 255 Special Training Puppet. 3, 2, 1. After 10 seconds, to Elder Tantai's surprise, none of the disciples decided to leave the examination. Now then, let's continue with the examination, shall we? Elder Tantai placed a foot-long purple-colored incense stick into the ground and said, I want everybody to sit around the incense stick. The disciples followed her instruction, and a few moments later, all 121 disciples sat around the incense stick. The exam will officially begin once I light the incense stick. If you're poisoned, I will immediately apply the antidote, but you will automatically fail the examination. The disciples swallowed nervously, and they watched as Elder Tantai lit the incense stick. Once the incense stick was lit, purple smoke began to fill the area quickly, but Elder Tantai remained standing directly beside the poisonous incense stick without a care in the world. Meanwhile, the disciples quickly began releasing their spiritual energy, covering their body with it so that the poisonous smoke won't be able to touch them. Of course, it required tremendous effort and a lot of stamina to maintain this state, and the disciples could feel their spiritual energy depleting at a rapid rate. As for Yuan, since he was a peak spirit warrior, he had plenty of spiritual energy to spare, and compared to the other disciples, he only needed to expend some of his spiritual energy to block the poison since his spiritual energy was much more powerful. Follow current novels on l/itnovelp/ub. Brother Yuan, you don't even need to use any spiritual energy to defend against poison at this level, Xiaohua's voice suddenly resounded in his head. Furthermore, with Brother Yuan's ability to resist poison, something that had obtained from consuming the demonic spider's monster core, the weeping serpent's poison won't have any effect on you. Really? Let me try it. Trusting Xiaohua's words, Yuan stopped cultivating and covering his body with spiritual energy, allowing the purple smoke to engulf his body. Xiaohua's right. I don't feel any different. Yuan was pleasantly surprised by this. However, when the sect elder saw this, she immediately retrieved a brown pill and tossed it at Yuan. Eat it quickly or you'll die. Elder Tantai thought Yuan had already exhausted his cultivation and was exposed to the poison. Yuan subconsciously caught the brown pill, but he didn't eat it and instead said to her, but I'm fine. What? Elder Tantai's eyes widened with surprise after hearing Yuan's word, and upon closer inspection, Yuan didn't appear to be struggling at all. Visit Lighten/Ovalpub. C/OM for a better experience. What is going on? She asked herself. Yuan was clearly exposed to the weeping serpent's poison, but for some reason, he was completely fine. Does he have a unique physique that protects him from poison? Elder Tantai could only think of this logical explanation to Yuan's situation. However, if that was the case, why didn't he do it early to save some spiritual energy? Elder Tantai decided to not think too deeply about this as long as Yuan was fine. Keep the pill just in case you feel any symptoms. If you feel unpleasant or sick even the slightest at any moment, consume that pill immediately or you will really die, she then said to him. I understand. Yuan nodded his head and proceeded to sit there with a calm atmosphere around him. Despite listening to their puzzling conversation, the other disciples did not stop focusing on protecting themselves, fearing that if they lose focus for even a second that they might fail the exam. 15 minutes later, the incense stick only burned halfway to the end, and over half of the disciples there were already soaked in sweat, looking like they could barely hold on. New novel chapters are published on light/novelpub//. Elder Tantai took note of the disciples who she believes will fail soon and prepared the antidote in advance. A minute later, the first disciple to exhaust his cultivation base before the entire incense stick burned, and Elder Tantai tossed the pill at him. The disciple did not hesitate to consume the pill, as he could feel his skin burning the second the smoke touched his body. After another couple of minutes later, over a dozen disciples swallowed the same pill, failing the examination. The incense stick lasted for exactly 30 minutes, and at the end of the test, 51 disciples failed the examination. 70 of you remaining, huh? Much better than I'd expected, to be honest. Elder Tantai nodded her head in approval. You have 10 minutes to rest before we begin the next test. Elder Tantai said to them afterward. The disciples immediately sat down to cultivate and restore their spiritual energy. While the disciples rested, Elder Tantai prepared the next test by placing a training puppet in the middle of the field. Visit Light Novel.com for the best novel reading experience. 10 minutes later, Elder Tantai clapped her hands and spoke loudly, "You are done resting. If you continue, I will immediately fail you. Gather in front of me." The disciples quickly stopped their cultivation and stood up after hearing Elder Tantai's words. A few moments later, all of the disciples gathered in front of Elder Tantai. I will now explain the second test. Elder Tantai said as she pointed at the silver-colored training puppet that looked slightly different compared to the ones in the practice area. Some of you might have seen this before, but this is a special training puppet mostly used by inner court and core disciples because they are more durable than the ones in the outer court, and they have a special feature that allows them to gauge how powerful their attacks are. As her sentence ended, Elder Tantai turned around and punched the training puppet. Boom! The impact sounded very powerful, but the training puppet only moved back a couple of meters. A few seconds later, the training puppet began changing colors from silver to a dark yellow color. The most up-to-date novels are published on /li/tnovelp/ub/com. The colors will determine how much damage it sustained. There are 3 colors: green, yellow, and red. Green means non-lethal damage. Yellow is lethal. As for red, it means you can kill even a spirit warrior magical beast with that strike, and the darker the color the more damage they sustain. In order to pass this test, you must make the puppet turn yellow. Elder Tantai explained. Chapter 256 exploded into many pieces. Oh, one more thing. You are not allowed to use your own weapon in this test. Elder Tantai added, and she pointed to the weapon rack not far in the distance and continued, use one of those. Are there any questions? One of the disciples there raised his hand and said, we can use any technique we want, right? Elder Tantai nodded, that's right. Sometime later, after the questions, Elder Tantai said, if you wish to challenge the training puppet, step forward. A few seconds after Elder Tantai's words, a disciple at the Peak Spirit Apprentice stepped forward and spoke loudly, I will go first. He then went to pick up a spear from the weapon rack before coming back and approaching the training puppet. The disciple stood a few steps in front of the training puppet and took a moment to prepare himself. After taking a long and deep breath, the disciple raised his spear. Once the spear was raised perfectly parallel to the ground, the disciple held his breath for a second before thrusting it forward. Follow current novels on lightnov/pub.com. Boom. The training puppet was sent flying backward, but it slowed down very quickly and stopped 5 meters away from its original spot. The disciple waited for the evaluation nervously, and a few seconds later the training puppet turned from silver to green, then dark green, before finally settling at yellow. You passed. Elder Tantai said. Yes. The disciple shouted in excitement before returning the spear in the weapons rack. A few minutes later, another disciple stood before the training puppet that had returned to its original spot with a different weapon in his hand, a sword. Ha-ah. Ha. The disciple slashed the sword in his hand, creating a powerful strike that made the training puppet fall to its knees. Once it stood up again, the colors began changing. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. C/OM light green, dark green, light yellow, you passed. Elder Tantai said once the color stopped at light yellow. The next disciple went, but he didn't pick up a weapon and stood before the training puppet with his bare fists. Mountain-shattering fist strike. The disciple threw a punch with immense force at the training puppet, sending it flying many meters away. After falling down a dozen meters away, the training puppet got back up and slowly walked back to its original spot while changing colors as it walked. Dark green, light yellow, dark yellow, not bad. Elder Tantai nodded her head when she saw this, and she continued, you pass. Thank you, Elder. The disciple bowed to her before standing with the other 2 who had passed before him. For more, visit lightnovelpub.com. The disciples continued to challenge the training puppet one by one, and in less than an hour, over half of the disciples used their turn. Light yellow, pass. Light yellow, pass. Dark green, fail. Dark green, fail. Light yellow, pass. Out of the 30-something disciples that challenged the training puppet, only 2/3 of them had managed to pass the test by scoring a yellow color. However, nobody there has managed to make the training puppet turn red. A few more tries later, a disciple with a first-level spirit warrior cultivation base has finally managed to hit the training puppet hard enough for it to turn light red. Heavens! What a powerful martial skill. I could feel the impact even from here. I don't even dare to imagine what it must feel like to get struck by such a powerful blow. This content is taken from lightnovelpub.com. The disciples were shocked by this young man who was wielding a great sword in his hands. I recognize that martial skill. It's the relentless force, an earth-rank martial skill. No wonder why it was so powerful. To think he'd trained an earth-rank technique to such a high level. What astounding talents and display. Elder Tantai clapped afterward, and she spoke in a praising voice, "Great. It's been a while since a disciple has managed to hit a red color during the examination. In fact, the last time someone managed to hit red was almost a year ago. Thank you, Elder, for your praises." Sometime later, once everyone else went, it was only Yuan who hadn't gone. That's disciple Yuan who defeated the Mad Tiger. What color do you think he'll achieve? The disciples immediately started mumbling to each other while Yuan went to the weapons rack to pick his weapon. Who knows, really? During his match with the Mad Tiger, he didn't lift even a finger and used some mysterious technique to take down the Mad Tiger. I have a feeling he'll hit a dark yellow, maybe even light red. Visit lightnovelpub.com for a better experience. I think it'll only be light yellow. A few moments later, Yuan returned to the training puppet with a sword in his hand, and the other disciples stopped talking to watch with intensive gazes. What technique should I use? Yuan thought to himself. While the heaven-splitting sword strike is his most powerful technique available, he didn't want to destroy this place. As for his next strongest sword technique, demon sealing technique, it was out of the question since he has never used it before. Therefore, he could only use the bloody sword strike, his most used technique. After taking an offensive stance, Yuan took a deep breath. Once he released his breath, the sword in his hand began glowing bright red, and Yuan swung the sword with all of his might. Boom! Yuan's aura exploded with a tyrannical feeling, and a red arc of light appeared in the air as the sword connected with the training puppet's neck. Cling! Updated from lighten//oval/p/ub. Come to Yuan's surprise, the blade to the sword in his hand exploded into many pieces after Yuan struck the training puppet. However, that was not the only thing to break during his strike, as the training puppet's head was cleanly sliced off from its body like it had been executed. What? Elder Tantai shouted in a shocked voice when she saw this, as this is her first time seeing someone destroy a training puppet in such a manner. As for the other disciples, their eyes were wide as saucers with their jaws dropped to the ground, looking like they'd just witnessed something impossible. Chapter 257 Powerful Magical Beast. What in the name of heavens just happened? Am I imagining things, or did he just decapitate the special training puppet that even spirit warriors cannot destroy? One of the disciples there mumbled in a dazed voice as he stared at the silver head that had rolled a few meters away after being detached from its body. Meanwhile, the training puppet that Yuan had decapitated continued to function, turning colors. Light green, light yellow, light red, dark red, black. To everybody's surprise, the special training puppet had suddenly turned black, a color they didn't know existed, much less seen before. Yuan looked at the broken sword in his grasp with a dazed expression on his face. He didn't expect the sword to break so easily. It felt like he'd smashed a rock with an egg. However, to his surprise, he'd still managed to decapitate the training puppet. Of course, it was the spiritual energy released from the sword that had sliced the training puppet's head cleanly off its body, as the sword was destroyed the moment it touched the puppet's tough body due to the immense force behind it. Sometime later, once she snapped out of her daze, Elder Tantai approached the training puppet to examine its damage with a perplexed look on her face, seemingly trying to figure out what the heck just happened. She then looked at Yuan's broken sword. "I don't recognize the technique you just used." "What rank is it?" she then asked him. "Follow current novels on Lighten/OV/LPub. Earth rank," he calmly responded. Elder Tantai questioned her own existence after learning that Yuan had managed to decapitate a special training puppet with an Earth rank technique while she can't even damage it with a technique of the same rank and a cultivation base of 7th level spirit warrior. "Anyway, you passed," Elder Tantai said after a moment of silence. Even if she can't comprehend what just happened, she couldn't deny what was right before her eyes. Fortunately for her, Yuan was the last person to take the test, or she would have needed to find another special training puppet, which would have delayed the examination for at least 2 to 3 hours, since nobody could have expected an outer court disciple destroying a special training puppet that even core disciples cannot destroy. As expected of the one who defeated the mad tiger without lifting a finger. If had lifted his finger, perhaps that match would have ended up as a death match. The disciples there wholeheartedly believed that Wu Laohu had lucked out when Yuan decided to let him survive. Sometime later, Elder Tantai gathered the disciples again and said, "There are 24 of you left, and we will be heading to the final test where you must defeat a magical beast before you become an inner court disciple. If you have any questions, ask away. Visit lightnov/lpub. .com for the best novel reading experience." One of the disciples immediately raised his hand and asked, "What kind of magical beasts will we be fighting?" Elder Tantai then responded in a calm voice, "It's a powerful magical beast that is mostly found within the Jade Forest, the Jade Frog." "The Jade Frog?" The disciples expressed shock upon hearing this name. Jade frogs are incredibly hard to deal with since they have a large body and tough skin, and they like to jump around. A single mistake could lead to their bodies getting flattened. Meanwhile, Yuan tilted his head after hearing this familiar name. "Jade Frog? Isn't this the first monster that I have fought in this game? The one that nearly gave me a heart attack because I thought it turned Xiao Hua's body into meat paste?" Yuan remembered his encounter with the Jade Frog as though it was just yesterday, as that was his first combat experience in this world. "Who would like to go first?" Elder Tantai asked the disciples after answering all of their questions. "I'd like to go first." An eager voice immediately responded. The disciples turned to look at the voice, and to their surprise, Yuan had volunteered to go first. Updated from Lightnovelpub. Sure, go ahead. Elder Tantai said, and she continued, "One of the gates at the end will open once the test begins, and you will have 15 minutes to defeat the Jade Frog or it's an automatic loss. And just like the previous test, you can only use the equipment provided to you." Yuan nodded his head before heading to the weapons rack to pick up another weapon. This time, he chose a dagger, surprising the Elder Tantai and the other disciples with his choice. "Why is he using the dagger? I thought for sure he was going to use the sword again. Is he trying to show off or something?" This test is entirely different compared to the previous 2 tests. You need a lot of experience and knowledge to fight a magical beast, especially the Jade Frog that's well known for killing inexperienced cultivators who are not used to their attack patterns. Who knows? He's done nothing but surprise since the beginning. Maybe he'll do the same for this time as well. Sometime later, once Yuan was standing in the middle of the field with the other disciples standing all the way in the back, Elder Tantai shouted, "Release the magical beast." The metal gates immediately opened, and the ground began shaking as a Jade Frog made its appearance by hopping out of the entrance. The disciples swallowed nervously when they saw the Jade Frog and its intimidating appearance. Visit lightnov/lpub. For a better experience. Meanwhile, Yuan stared at the round magical beast with a nostalgic feeling. Boom! The Jade Frog stopped moving after it landed a few meters away from Yuan, and it proceeded to stare at Yuan and the others there as though it was analyzing them and their situation. In this stillness and silence, a movement was suddenly made, but it was not by the Jade Frog. Instead, it was Yuan who moved first, as Head suddenly tossed his dagger into the air. A vicious light flickered in his eyes, and right as the dagger in the air reached its highest point and prepared to fall down, it suddenly stopped moving and hovered in the air for a split second before shooting itself at the jade frog like a shooting star. Chapter 258 Becoming an Inner Court Disciple. The moment it saw the dagger trembling in the air, the jade frog sensed imminent danger, causing its body to instinctively jump up to avoid it. Whoosh! The flying dagger barely missed the jade frog. However, before the jade frog could even land, the flying dagger suddenly did a sharp turn and flew at it again like there was a string attached to the jade frog. Whoosh! A gaping hole appeared before the jade frog's forehead a split second later, instantly killing it. Thud! The ground shook when the large and heavy jade frog's lifeless body fell down from the sky, shocking the spectators. Once the place was still, Yuan turned around and walked back to be with the rest of the disciples without even turning around or checking whether the jade frog was truly dead or not. I have defeated the jade frog. Am I an inner court disciple now? Yuan asked Elder Tantai, who stood there with a gawking look on her face. After a long moment of silence, Elder Tantai nodded her head in a stiff movement before speaking, "Why yes. Congratulations on becoming an inner court disciple, Disciple Yuan. Here is your badge. Take this to the distribution center to get your inner court disciple badge and robes. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience." Yuan accepted the badge with humbleness before walking out of the examination hall in a casual manner, almost like he was taking a stroll in a park. The other disciples there watched as Yuan's back disappeared from their sights. Just where on earth did this disciple Yuan come from, and how come I have never heard of him until recently? There's no way such a genius would be a nobody. Elder Tantai mumbled to herself in a dazed voice. Sometime later, once the jade frog's corpse was taken away, Elder Tantai resumed the examination. Meanwhile, Yuan went to the distribution hall and handed the elder at the front desk the badge had just obtained from Elder Tantai. So you just passed the inner court disciple examination, huh? Congratulations. The sect elder there treated him with respect, taking Yuan by surprise. After all, he's been treated like an insect most of the time by the sect elders in this sect. At least that's what it feels like, and it was a refreshing feeling to be respected by a sect elder. Can I have your old identification badge? The sect elder then asked him. Yuan nodded and handed him the bronze identification badge. Updated from lightnov/lpub. I'll be right back. The sect elder went to the back of the room for a few minutes before returning. Here you go. I have updated your identification badge. As for your living quarters, you can choose to stay in your current place or be assigned a new living quarter in the inner court. Yuan immediately responded without any hesitation, I will remain in my current residence. The sect elder was slightly surprised by Yuan's decision. After all, the living quarters within the inner court are more spacious and luxurious overall, and you only have one roommate compared to the 5 roommates in the outer court. Any logical being would choose to live in the inner court. Perhaps he doesn't want to leave his friends? The sect elder could only think of one reason for Yuan's decision. If that's your decision, then I won't say anything. However, if you wish to move to the inner court for whatever reason, you can come back here and we'll arrange something for you, said the sect elder a moment later. And he continued, now about your new uniforms. Which color do you want? Blue or green? Does it matter which one I choose? Yuan asked. No, it doesn't matter. It's just a preference thing. Follow current novels on /lightnovelpub/. Then I'll choose blue. Very well. I'll be right back again. The sect elder went to the back for a second time before returning a few minutes later with 3 sets of blue uniforms. Here you go. If the sizes don't fit, you may return to exchange them. Thank you, senior. Yuan accepted the uniforms. One more thing before you leave. There'll be a lecture tomorrow that'll introduce you to life as an inner court disciple. If you can, please attend it. It'll be at the Education Peak in building number 111. I understand. I'll try to attend it. Yuan nodded. Sometime later, Yuan left the distribution hall and returned to his own living quarters. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. Minli, who was just about to leave her house, noticed Yuan's approaching figure and the blue robes he was carrying. Disciple Yuan. Those uniforms, you're an inner court disciple now? Minli exclaimed in a shocked voice. Yuan nodded and said, yes, I just took the examination today and became an inner court disciple. Minli's jaw dropped to the ground. Why didn't you tell me? I would have done the examination with you. Minli asked him. That never crossed my mind. I didn't know you wanted to take the examination as well, Yuan said in an apologetic voice. I am not blaming you or anything. Minli quickly said. Anyways, now that you're an inner court disciple, will you be moving out? Minli then asked him. No, I will be staying here, Yuan responded. Visit lighten/o/vel/pub/com for a better experience, really? A pleasantly surprised expression on Minli's face. Why? She couldn't help but ask him, hoping that he would say something romantic like because of you or something along that line. But alas, Yuan said, there's really no reason for me to move out of such a nice house. But you will have to walk to the inner court every time you need something from there, which will take up a lot of time. It's okay. I like to be active, anyways. Is that so? Minli mumbled. Normally, cultivators want to spend as much time as they could on cultivation whilst saving time for everything else so they can have more time for cultivation. However, for geniuses like Yuan, minor things like that don't really matter, as it won't affect their extreme cultivation speed much if any at all. Sometime later, Minli left the place to go to the practice area. The next inner court disciple examination is in 3 months, HAA. Minli sighed inwardly as she left the place. Updated from /l/itnov/lpub/com. Meanwhile, Yuan went back to his own room. Congratulations on becoming an inner court disciple, brother Yuan. Xiaohua said to him. Thank you, Xiaohua, Yuan said to her. A few moments later, Yuan sat down and began training his divine sense. Once the sky began turning dark, Yuan logged off the game and waited for Meishio to return home. I'm back, Yuan, Meishio said to him after closing the door. Welcome back, Meishio. I'll prepare dinner right now. After putting down her stuff from school and changing her clothes, Meishio went to cook dinner. Visit /lig/novelpub.com for a better experience. Once that was done, Meishio went to feed Yuan. Yuan, you need to be careful when you're playing the game, Meishio suddenly warned him. Huh? Why would you say that? Yuan asked. The young lady told me to warn you because there will be a lot of players trying to get into the Dragon Essence Temple to meet you. Really? I should start wearing my mask even in the sect then. Yuan mumbled. The young lady also told me to warn you to stay away from people who try to ask you personal questions even if they might be an NPC because players can disguise themselves as NPCs and you won't know it. I understand. I'll be careful, Yuan said. By the way, how is Yu-Ro doing at school? I hope she's doing fine after what happened recently. The young lady is doing much better. Furthermore, she can always meet you in cultivation online, at least that's what she keeps telling herself. Updated from li/t/n/ovalpub/com. I see. I plan on leaving the Dragon Essence Temple to spend more time with Yu-Ro in a week or so anyway. I cannot leave until I participate in the Mystic Realm, since I promised the sect master and others that I'd help them. The Mystic Realm? Meishio raised her eyebrows. Sometime later, after she finished feeding Yuan dinner, Meishio said, I'll let you rest for a bit before I wash your body, Yuan. Okay. Meishio went to clean the dishes afterward. Half an hour later, Meishio returned to the room with his wheelchair. After picking Yuan up from the bed and placing him in the chair, Meishio pushed him to the bathroom, where she helped him undress. And since she didn't want to get her clothes wet while washing Yuan, Meishio decided to also take her clothes off and went into the bathroom with him naked. Once they were inside the bathroom, Meishio squeezed some body wash onto her palms before she rubbed it all over Yuan's body. Updated from lightnovelp/u/b/. Once Yuan's body was covered in body wash, Meishio used a soft scrubber and began scrubbing his body. This is my first time washing him, Meishio thought to herself as she cleaned whatever she could. A few moments later, Meishio reached his lower area, and her eyes subconsciously moved to look at the cute thing between Yuan's legs. Almost like she was mesmerized or something, Meishio couldn't find the strength to look away, and she proceeded to stare at it with a dazed look on her face. Meishio finally snapped out of her daze a few moments later, and she proceeded to wash Yuan's legs, ignoring the thing in the middle for now. What is this feeling? Meishio swallowed nervously when she noticed her heart beating faster than usual, feeling as though the temperature in the room had suddenly increased. Chapter 259 An Unexpected Phenomenon. I know I said this before, but I really appreciate you doing this for me, Meishio. Yuan suddenly said to her while she scrubbed his legs. Don't worry about it. You have also helped me out a lot when I didn't know any better as a child. Meishio responded in a low voice. When she was a young child who was still in training to be the perfect servant, she would often make mistakes and get scolded by her mother. When that happens, Meishio would cry like any other brat and seek Yuan for comfort. I was originally trained to serve you, Yuan, but after what happened to you, they decided to assign me to the young lady instead. Meishio suddenly said. At one point, I was even. Meishio suddenly stopped midway through her sentence. Meishio? Never mind that. I was just talking to myself, Meishio mumbled a moment later. After cleaning Yuan's legs, there was only one place that still needed to be cleaned, the area between his legs. Meishio swallowed nervously at the thought of touching this cute snake, almost like she feared that it might bite her if she approached it. The source of this content is lightnovelpub.com. However, as much as she wanted to leave that place alone, she was trained to do her job properly. It was inexcusable for her to half-ass a job or leave her job unfinished. Therefore, she could only swallow her nervousness and reach for the soft thing between Yuan's legs and began cleaning it with her hands, as it was very difficult to clean every nook and cranny with the sponge. A chill went up Yuan's spine when Meishio began cleaning his precious thing. Perhaps it was due to his spirit warrior cultivation base, but the sensation of his own body has significantly improved since then, allowing him to feel a lot more. Had already noticed this when Meishio began washing his body, but it wasn't as apparent as currently for some reason, almost like the area between his legs was much more sensitive than other areas on his body. And then an unexpected phenomenon happened. This is. Meixia's eyes widened with shock when the small snake suddenly started growing larger and larger. Since this is her first time washing Yuan, it is only obvious that she has no prior knowledge, so she didn't know if Yuan's sprout was normal in such situations. Of course, Yuan was oblivious to this natural reaction on his body. Meishio didn't know whether she should continue or stop at this point, but she eventually convinced herself to continue. Thus, Meishio began washing Yuan again, but with a slight difference. She was rushing it, something she had never done before. The most up-to-date novels are published on lightnov/elp/ub. A few seconds later, Meishio finally stopped washing him and began rinsing the soap off his body with the showerhead. I am finished. Meishio spoke in a tiny voice afterward, her face flushed with redness. Thank you, Meishio. Yuan said to her in a calm voice, completely oblivious to the blushing expression on Meixia's face at this moment. Sometime later, Meishio laid a large dry towel on Yuan's bed before placing Yuan on this blanket and drying his body off with another towel. It's back to normal again, Meishio thought to herself as she dried his body. After drying Yuan's body, Meishio helped Yuan put his clothes on. I am done here, Yuan. I am going to clean myself now, Meishio said, still completely naked at this point. Okay. You can go to sleep afterward. Good night, Yuan. Updated from /lightno/vel/pub/com. Good night. Meishio went to the bathroom to wash herself shortly after, and Yuan began cultivating. What was that warm sensation just now? Yuan wondered to himself before he started his cultivation. Meanwhile, Meishio spent longer than usual in the bathroom. Once she was finally out again, she went straight to her room and sat on her bed with a dazed look on her face for many minutes before she decided to put on the console and enter cultivation online to see whether Yuan's friend was there. After spending half an hour of waiting with no results, Meishio logged off the game to sleep. That night, Meishio had a weird dream where she was surrounded by mushrooms and snakes. The following morning, after feeding Yuan breakfast, Meishio went to school. "You look tired, Meishio. Did you not get enough sleep last night? This is my first time seeing you like this," Yuro said to Meishio inside the car when she noticed Meixius' dazed look. "And no. I am fine, young lady," Meishio responded with a slight delay. The most up-to-date novels are published on li/knovelpu/b. I see. If you need to rest, just let me know and I'll give the teachers an excuse so you can rest for the day. Thank you, young lady, but I am fine. How's brother Tian? Yuro then asked. The young master is doing great, and as usual, he's eating 3 bowls of soup with ease, she responded. I see. By the way, this reminds me, you were supposed to be brother Tian's servant at one point, right? I remember your mother saying something like that to me before. Yuro suddenly asked. That's right. I was trained to support the young master and satisfy his every need. Meishio nodded. Yuro's eyes widened, and she mumbled in a slightly surprised voice, that sounds like they trained you to become his wife or something. Meishio remained silent regarding Yuro's statement, yet a weird glint flickered in her eyes. New novel chapters are published on li/gt//novelpub, c/om, do you regret it? Yuro continued to ask. Not being able to work for brother Tian despite training for it, I mean. While it did feel bitter at first since it felt like all of the training I did was for nothing, I was able to assist the young lady because of the skills I had learned with that training, so I don't have any regrets, Meishio answered after a moment of silence. But you're taking care of brother Tian now, just like you were trained. It feels like fate, Yuro chuckled at her own statement. Sometime later, they arrived at school and began their classes. Chapter 260 You Tricked Me. While Meishio went to school with Yuro, Yuan continued to train his divine sense-in. Meanwhile, at the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower, Long Yijuan and the other sect masters stared in shock as the 99th floor emitted a golden light. He really did it. He's managed to reach the 100th floor. The disciples there mumbled to each other with surprise. Who's currently inside? I just arrived. Shui Zi, the number 1 genius of the Grand Saber Palace. Shui Zi, huh? I heard he managed to reach Spirit Warrior at the young age of 18 and peak of Spirit Warrior at 27 years old. He's definitely up there even for a genius. Meanwhile, the sect masters laughed out loud, ha ha ha. Looks like this will be the last person to challenge this tower even though we still have 2 more people. I was getting worried for a second, but it's relieving to see someone finally reach the final floor. Despite most of their disciples challenging the tower, most of them had stopped around the 90th floor, and only Shui Zi managed to reach the 100th floor. Visit lightnovelpub/c//om for the best novel reading experience. However, Long Yijuan did not show any signs of worry, and he merely stared at the tower with a calm look on his face. What do you think about this, Elder Xian? Do you think he'll beat the 100th floor? Elder Bai suddenly asked him. I want to say it's impossible, but we have been taught again and again that there's no such thing as impossible by him. Though, it is still unlikely that he would be able to pass that floor. Elder Xian said with a bittersweet smile on his face. Meanwhile, inside the tower, a handsome young man with a fierce expression on his face slowly climbed the stairs to the 100th floor after spending 15 minutes recovering his strength. Already the last floor? I will give this place some credit since it was not easy climbing to this level, but alas, it looks like I am fated to defeat this tower. Shui Zi said with a confident smile on his face. A few moments later, Shui Zi stepped onto the 100th floor and was greeted by the new scenery. What a vast place. Am I still inside the tower? Or is this merely an illusion? Shui Zi mumbled in a dazed voice. Anyways, where are the monsters? Hurry up and come out so I can beat this boring tower already. Shui Zi shouted out loud in an arrogant voice. Ho! A boring tower, huh? The most up-to-date novels are published on /li/gaitno/ve/pub. Calm. The space before Shui Zi suddenly twisted, and a gaping hole appeared in the space a moment later. Then, Shui Zi watched with wide eyes as a massive golden dragon appeared from within the black hole. Once it appeared, the Great One gazed upon Shui Zi as though he was an ant and spoke in a calm voice. Well, I will give you credit for making it here, nor did I expect someone else to come here so soon after the last one, but you don't have what it takes to clear the 100th floor. Shui Zi did not respond to the Great One, mostly because he was frozen stiff from shock and fear. Humph. What a boring one. The Great One shook its head when it saw the state Shui Zi was in. Anyways, since you want to get this over with, allow me to tell you the challenge for this floor. Boom. An intense aura suddenly exploded from the Great One's large body, causing the entire world to shake. This content is taken from li/g/novel/pub. If you want to defeat the 100th floor, you must defeat me. The Great One's voice echoed in Shui Zi's ears. Impossible. You're asking for the impossible. This isn't fair. How the fuck am I supposed to defeat a dragon? Shui Zi was snapped out of his daze by the Great One's aura that activated his instincts and desire to run. Ha ha ha. The Great One suddenly laughed before speaking. Impossible? If it was impossible, how did the person who came before you pass the floor and defeat the tower? Are you telling me that this person defeated you? Shui Zi exclaimed. No, we didn't fight, and I had another challenge for him. What? That's even more unfair. Why are you giving me a different challenge, then? A mysterious smile appeared on the Great One's face, and it spoke in a calm voice. If you'd like, I can let you take that challenge instead. Really? The source of this content is li//gaitno/velpub, / hopeful look appeared on Shui Zi's face after hearing this, and he immediately nodded his head. Yes. I want to take that challenge. Very well, the Great One said. A few moments later, the ground suddenly began rumbling, startling Shui Zi. What the heck is this shaking? He wondered to himself. The Great One spoke as a black line appeared on the horizon. For this challenge, you must defeat 100,000 peak spirit warrior magical beasts. You will have unlimited time to do so and 24 hours of rest time, and you may pause this challenge whenever you wish. However, once your 24 hours run out, you will have to fight until your last breath. Shui Zi's eyes widened with shock after hearing this. You want me to fight against 100,000 spirit warrior magical beasts? This is even more impossible than fighting you. You tricked me. There's no way anyone could possibly pass this trial even if they're given a week to rest. Shui Zi pointed at the Great One with trembling hands. Visit lightnovelp/ub//com for a better experience. Why would I trick you? The last person cleared this challenge with no problem at all. The Great One shook its head. Then tell me who defeated this challenge? I'll believe you then. However, the Great One shook its head and said, that person's name is too great for someone like you. If you do not accept the challenge, then you will automatically forfeit. Shui Zi gritted his teeth in anger, and he turned to look at the sea of magical beasts that were swarming towards him at this moment, his back soaked in cold sweats. Chapter 261 Impossible to Beat. Shui Zi watched as the sea of magical beasts quickly closed their distance, and once they were only half a mile away, Shui Zi could no longer keep calm and shouted, I give up. I give up. Get me out of here. The Great One coldly snorted after seeing Shui Zi surrender the challenge, not even going to attempt the challenge. You're a much bigger coward than I'd anticipated. Get lost. You do not qualify to even be in my presence. The Great One's eyes flickered with a golden light, and before Shui Zi realized it, he was back on the first floor of the tower. Meanwhile, outside the tower, Long Yijuan and the other sect masters just witnessed the lights on all 99 floors turn off, signaling Shui Zi's failure. What? The sect masters there were speechless by this, as they'd truly expedited Shui Zi to defeat the tower. A few moments later, Shui Zi left the tower with a dazed look on his face, looking empty, almost like he was dead inside. Shui Zi. What happened in there? You were so close. His sect master quickly approached him. I can't do it. No human being can pass the 100th floor. It's impossible. Shui Zi responded in a voice of disbelief. The sect masters there immediately frowned, and one of them asked, "What do you mean by that? What was on the 100th floor?" New novel chapters are published on /li/gitnovelpub.com. It was a dragon, a real dragon. I had to defeat a dragon. Shui Zi spoke, and his body trembled upon recalling the Great One's intimidating aura. What? A dragon? Don't tell me you had to fight this dragon. The sect masters there were shocked. Even Long Yijuan and the high-ranking sect elders were surprised by this since they didn't hear anything about a dragon from Yuan. Shui Zi nodded and said, "It was a golden dragon, and it had the cultivation of a spirit master." After taking a deep breath, he continued, "However, that's not even the worst part, since there was another challenge on the 100th floor, which involves defeating 100,000 spirit warrior magical beasts with only 24 hours to rest. 100,000 spirit warrior magical beasts? How is that even possible?" The sect masters there repeated in a shocked voice, their expressions filled with disbelief. Even if they challenged this tower themselves, they would not dare to claim that they can defeat 100,000 magical beasts. Shui Zi nodded again and said, "Furthermore, the dragon claimed that someone had managed to clear that challenge by defeating all 100,000 magical beasts. That's the challenge disciple Yuan told us about." Elder Xian thought to himself after hearing Shui Zi's words. At that moment, the sect masters there turned to look at Long Yijuan, who was casually sitting there with a smug look on his face. Visit light/novelpub.com for the best novel reading experience. What are you looking at? You still have 2 more disciples. Hurry up, the mystic realm is coming up and I need to finish preparing for that. Long Yijuan said to them. However, the sect masters did not send another disciple inside the tower, and they remained standing there while staring at Long Yijuan with deep frowns on their faces. If what Shui Zi said was true, that they had to either defeat a spirit master dragon or fight 100,000 spirit warrior magical beasts, there was simply no way the remaining 2 disciples would be able to defeat this tower. In other words, they are destined to lose their bet. Sect Master Long, you tricked us. You knew it was impossible to beat this tower, so you made the bet with the dragon-slaying saber as bait. One of the sect masters suddenly pointed at Long Yijuan and blamed him for tricking them. However, Long Yijuan remained calm and said, "No shit, you idiot. Why else would I dare to gamble the dragon-slaying saber? With that being said, you are wrong about one thing, that the tower is impossible to defeat. If it's really impossible, how did my disciple defeat it? Bullshit. I bet your disciple had an entirely different challenge and the tower is merely screwing with us because we're not disciples of this sect. Or you manipulated the tower to give us an impossible challenge." The sect masters said. Long Yijuan shook his head and said, "As if I have the power to manipulate the tower. In the history of the sect, nobody, and I mean not a single person before that disciple had managed to clear all 100 floors, and even the founder was defeated on the 100th floor." New novel chapters are published on lightnov/lpub.com. The sect masters' faces dropped after hearing such words. Not even their ancestor, who was known as the #1 genius during his era, could beat the 100th floor. Then what kind of monster does it take to defeat the tower? Just who is this disciple the Dragon Essence Temple is trying so hard to hide? I know what you're thinking, but I won't say anything. If you wish to meet this disciple, you'll see him at the Mystic Realm. Long Yijuan laughed out loud. Che. The sect masters there snickered coldly. Anyways, are you going to continue or not? If not, you can forfeit the bet and your treasures as well. Long Yijuan held his hand out in a lazy manner. The sect masters gritted their teeth in frustration. Even though they knew it was impossible for the remaining disciples to defeat the tower, they couldn't just hand their treasures to Long Yijuan without even trying, as that would simply make things even more embarrassing for them. I will challenge the tower. One of the remaining 2 disciples suddenly stepped forward and said. Chances are I will not be able to defeat the dragon or 100,000 magical beasts, but I will definitely try. Updated from light novel // pub. The disciples' sect master nodded and said, well said. We have not lost just yet. Thus, the next disciple went inside the tower and began climbing it. Go ahead, keep struggling. The results will remain the same, anyways. Long Yijuan laughed inwardly at their futile efforts. Chapter 262 Abnormal amount of visitors. Sometime after the next challenger went inside the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower, Long Yijuan mumbled to Elder Xian who was sitting right beside him, he should be an inner court disciple by now. Go find him and let him enter the Dragon's Peak alongside Fei Yuyan. Elder Xian nodded, I understand. When the other sect masters noticed Elder Xian leaving the scene, they asked, where's he going? Elder Xian does not want to waste any more of his time here since he already knows the outcome. Therefore, he's leaving to work. Long Yijuan responded in a nonchalant voice. Why you little? The sect masters gritted their teeth at Long Yijuan's obvious provocation. However, they didn't dare to claim that they will definitely win this bet, especially not after what they learned about the 100th floor. Even for a spirit master like them, it would be impossible to defeat 100,000 magical beasts even if they were given a month, much less 24 hours of rest time, and they cannot fathom the talent and strength that is required to pass this tower. If what the dragon on the 100th floor told Shui Zi was true, that someone had managed to defeat 100,000 magical beasts and clear the tower, then the cultivation world is about to experience a turmoil it hasn't felt in countless years. Hey, what are you guys thinking? One of the sect master there suddenly whispered to the other 3. Isn't it obvious? I'm thinking about how we can get ourselves out of this shithole. It's obvious that we won't win this bet. However, we'll be handing 4 divine grade treasures to the Dragon Essence Temple if we lose. New novel chapters are published on /lightno/velpub. /c/om, is there anything we can really do at this point? We've sworn a blood oath. Unless you want to invoke a heavenly tribulation and curse your future generations, we cannot break the blood oath. Fuck. We were blinded by the dragon-slaying saber. That bastard really got us good this time. Even though we cannot do anything about the blood oath, we can still try to work something out with him after we give him our treasures. I highly doubt the Dragon Essence Temple wants to offend 4 sects at once. Right. We can simply buy our divine grade treasures back, or we can offer something else in return for them. Let's try to figure this out before our last disciple challenges the tower. Long Yijuan noticed the other sect masters whispering to each other, and he could already imagine what they were talking about. However, it didn't matter to him, as the Dragon Essence Temple would benefit from this bet no matter what they did at this point, and he continued to watch the tower light up with golden lights. Meanwhile, Elder Xian went to Yuan's living quarters and knocked on the doors. A few moments later, Yuan opened the door and greeted him, Hello, Senior Xian. Let's talk inside. Elder Xian said. This content is taken from lig/novelpub/c/om. Yuan nodded and closed the door after he entered. Once they were seated, Elder Xian began to speak. First and foremost, allow me to congratulate you on becoming an inner court disciple. Thank you, the examination was pretty fun, Yuan said with a smile. Fun. A bittersweet smile appeared on Elder Xian's face. In this entire sect, Yuan is probably the only disciple who would have fun during such an important examination. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the Dragon's Peak. The sect master wants you and Fei Yuyan to enter before the mystic realm that is only a week away. Are you available now? I can take you there right now. Yuan nodded and said, Yes, I am free. I was just training my divine sense. Training divine sense at your cultivation level, huh? I didn't start training my divine sense until I was a spirit master. Unfortunately, the Dragon Essence Temple doesn't have any soul techniques to assist you in that matter. Elder Xian said. It's fine. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience, okay, then follow me. Let's go pick up Disciple Fei before we head to Dragon's Peak. Just as Elder Xian turned to walk towards the door, Yuan suddenly said, Please wait a moment. Senior Xian. Elder Xian turned around and watched as Yuan retrieved a black jade mask before putting it on his face. Elder Xian raised his eyebrows after seeing this. Is it fine if I go outside with my mask? There are a lot of people looking for me, and I don't want them to recognize me. Yuan said. Elder Xian became even more puzzled after hearing his words, and he asked, Are there disciples bothering you right now? I will immediately deal with them if that's the case. No, it has nothing to do with the disciples, nor am I being bothered right now. However, there are people out there looking for me, and I have been told that they will be trying to enter the sect just to look for me because of my appearance at the zither competition. Now that you mention it, there has been an irregular amount of people trying to enter the sect as of lately, and most of them are rogue cultivators. Are they perhaps the people you're referring to? Elder Xian asked him. Ever since the zither competition, a lot of people have been visiting the Dragon Essence Temple, with some people even trying to sneak inside. However, none of the elders or Longijuan found that weird, as it was normal for people to flock to the Dragon Essence Temple after what happened at the zither competition, and this is usually what happens after a competition or tournament. Visit lig/nov/elp/ub. Com for a better experience though. The number of people visiting the sect as of recent is through the roof and unlike anything the sect has experienced before, and most of them were rogue cultivators without any backgrounds. If these people are here because of you, then we need to tighten up the security around the sect. Elder Xian mumbled with a perplexed look on his face. Sometime later, he said, I'll speak with the sect master afterward. For now, let's get you and Disciple Fei to the Dragon's Peak so you can strengthen yourselves as much as possible before the Mystic Realm. Chapter 263 Dragon's Peak. After leaving the house, Elder Xian led Yuan to the inner court to look for Fei Yuyan. The appearance of Elder Xian in the outer court surprised everyone and attracted countless gazes from the disciples around them, and they all bowed to him the moment they noticed him. As a high-ranking sect elder, they are revered as much as the sect master himself, and they usually don't appear in public, much less the outer court, so for Elder Xian, one of the most renowned high-ranking sect elder, to appear in the outer court was very shocking, to say the least. Who's that inner court disciple following him? He's even wearing a mask. Why is he wearing a mask? What's he trying to hide? His ugly face? Who knows? Sometime later, Elder Xian and Yuan arrived at Fei Yuyan's living quarters and knocked on the doors. After waiting for a few moments with no response, Elder Xian knocked on the door again. However, nobody answered the door. How odd. Elder Xian retrieved his jade slip and looked at it before continuing. Disciple Fei hasn't signed out of the logbook, so she should still be within the sect. Maybe she went to the Dragon Pavilion? This content is taken from lightnov/l/pub. Com, do you have any idea where she went? Elder Xian decided to ask Yuan. Yuan shook his head and said, I tried to visit her a few days ago as well, but she wasn't here either. Let's go to Elder Shan's living quarters and see if Disciple Fei is there or if she knows Disciple Fei's location. Elder Xian suggested. Yuan nodded his head, and they proceeded to head to the Blossom Peak to see Elder Shan. Sometime later, they knocked on Elder Shan's door. Who is it? Elder Shan appeared before them a few moments later. Elder Xian An. Disciple Yuan? It took a few seconds for Elder Shan to recognize Yuan's black jade mask, and when she realized that it was Yuan, she subconsciously took a step back and covered her head with her hands. Elder Shan? What are you doing? Elder Xian raised his eyebrows when he saw her puzzling actions. Ahem. Nothing. Elder Shan cleared her throat before continuing, anyway, what are you doing here? And why are you hiding your face, Disciple Yuan? This content is taken from lightnovel //ub. C/om, it's a complicated situation for him, we'll discuss it later. As for now, we're looking for Disciple Fei so we can head to the Dragon's Peak. She wasn't at her house, so we figured to come here. Elder Xian said. Oh, Fei Yuyan? She's currently in closed cultivation in the Immortal Caves. Elder Shan said. Immortal Caves? What's that? Yuan immediately asked, his interest piqued. The Immortal Caves are located at Cloud Peak, where the spiritual energy is incredibly thick and abundant, only second to Dragon's Peak in the entire sect. Core disciples usually spend the most time cultivating there, especially if there's nothing else to do outside. And since the mystic realm is getting close, everybody wants to improve their cultivation as fast as possible to be eligible for the mystic realm. One must be eligible to participate in the mystic realm? How do you pick who gets to participate? Yuan asked them. Well, the mystic realm is a mysterious place where one's overall strength and cultivation doesn't matter at all. Instead, one's talent reigns supreme. Everyone who enters the mystic realm will have their entire cultivation base wiped, but you'll regain your cultivation once you come back out. Elder Xian explained to him. And he continued, therefore, we pick the participants depending on their growth and improvements over a certain time. So far, you're the only disciple who is certain to participate in the mystic realm. As for the other 2 disciples, well, figure it out by the end of the week, wow. A mystic place, indeed. Yuan's anticipation for this place grew slightly more. Anyway, since Disciple Fei isn't here and we can't just disturb her cultivation, I guess you'll have to go to Dragon's Peak by yourself for now, Disciple Yuan. Elder Xian said to him. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Okay. Yuan nodded. Thank you, Elder Shan. Well, see you later. Oh, right. Before I leave. Yuan suddenly reached into his spatial ring and retrieved a cultivation technique. Can you give this to Disciple Fei when she comes out of cultivation? This is. Elder Shan accepted the technique with a nonchalant look on her face. However, when she realized what she was holding, her eyes widened with surprise. The divine rank cultivation technique you'd obtained from the Zither competition? You're already done with it? Yuan nodded. Yes, I learned it quicker than I'd expected, so I don't need it anymore. Please give it to Disciple Fei. Elder Shan and Elder Xian's jaws dropped after hearing his words. Had managed to learn a divine rank technique in just a few days. As expected, his comprehension abilities are beyond their understanding. I understand. I will give this technique to Fei Yuyan when I see her. Elder Shan nodded her head. Visit live/t//novelpub.com for a better experience. Thank you, Senior Shan. Yuan said to her. Elder Xian and Yuan left the place shortly later, heading to Dragon's Peak that was almost 2 hours away. So this is the Dragon's Peak. It's so empty. Yuan stared at the spacious land before them with raised eyebrows. Well, the founder was a simple man who loved to feel free, so he didn't have much if anything in his area, said Elder Xian. I see, but the spiritual energy in this area, it's really abundant. I can feel my cultivation base slightly growing just from breathing in this place. Yuan mumbled. Rumors say this is caused by a treasure that the founder had hidden in this place before his disappearance, since this place was not like this in the beginning, and it only became like this after the founder's disappearance. Elder Xian said. And he continued, however, despite all of our efforts throughout the years, nobody has found the supposed treasure to this day, and it's been tens of thousands of years. I see. Yuan mumbled with a pondering look on his face. Chapter 264. Where is the treasure? Anyway, you can stay here for as long as you like until the mystic realm begins. Although it might be a long shot, try to break through to the Spirit Master realm before then. While your cultivation base may not matter in the mystic realm, it'll definitely shock a lot of people and affect their minds and performance. Elder Xian said to him. If you need anything from me, just contact me using the communication jade slip. It'll be at the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower with the sect master and the others. Yuan nodded, and he suddenly asked, how are the guests doing? Did they manage to clear the tower yet? Elder Xian shook his head and spoke with a smile on his face, no, but one of them managed to reach the 100th floor. You didn't tell me about the dragon. Oh. I forgot. I'm sorry. Yuan said. Ha ha ha. Don't worry about it. It was a pleasant surprise. We won't blame you for it. Elder Xian laughed out loud. Sometime later, Elder Xian left the place, leaving Yuan alone at Dragon's Peak. What am I supposed to do here? Just sit down and cultivate? Yuan mumbled to himself since Elder Xian didn't exactly give him any instructions. By the way, Xiaohua, can you see the treasure in this place with your divine sense? I couldn't sense anything. Yuan suddenly asked her. No, Xiaohua cannot sense anything either. The people in this place should have already swept this entire place with their divine sense, anyway, so either there's no treasure in this place or it cannot be found through normal means. Follow current novels on lightnov/pub// com through normal means? How else can we locate a treasure besides our divine sense? Yuan asked. There are treasures that can locate other treasures. There are also magical beasts with special senses that allow them to pick up treasure. There are even powerful arrays that can pinpoint treasures as long as it's within the array. There are many methods one can use to locate treasures. However, unless they're incredibly incompetent, the people of this sect should have already tried all of these methods throughout the years. If that's the case, perhaps there really is no treasure in this place, and this abundant spiritual energy is merely a natural phenomenon? Yuan said. No, there's definitely a treasure in this place. Xiaohua suddenly said. Xiaohua just analyzed the flow of the spiritual energy in this place, and it's not natural. Something here is attracting the spiritual energy to this place. Really? Then can you pinpoint what is causing this phenomenon? No, Xiaohua cannot find anything no matter how much she tries. Maybe one requires a special technique or treasure to find the treasure. Xiaohua said. Special technique. Yuan raised his eyebrows as though had realized something. What if it's a treasure that can only be seen with the dragon's gaze? After all, the founder also knew of this technique. Yuan thought to himself. With that in mind, Yuan activated the dragon's gaze and proceeded to look around. However, he found nothing out of the ordinary. Updated from lightnovelp/ub, nothing? Maybe it's in a different area since this place seems very big. Thus, Yuan proceeded to walk around the Dragon's Peak as though he was taking a stroll while his eyes glowed gold and emitted an ancient aura. Nothing here, nothing out of the ordinary here either. Yuan spent the next 2 hours walking around the peak, but alas, he couldn't find the treasure. Perhaps there is really no treasure in this place? But Xiaohua said there's definitely something manipulating the flow of spiritual energy in this place, hence the abundance of spiritual energy. After pondering for a moment, Yuan wondered if he needed to activate divine sense as well as dragon's gaze, so he proceeded to walk around the Dragon's Peak for the second time, but this time, he had both dragon's gaze and divine sense activated. Still nothing? Yuan was truly puzzled now. The Dragon's Peak was spacious but also very empty, so there are very few places one can hide a treasure. Visit lig/nav//lpub. Com for a better experience. The treasure could be hidden underground, but not even Xiaohua could find the treasure with her divine sense that's powered by the cultivation of a spirit king, so that was unlikely. If it's not hidden on the surface or underground, there's only one more place. Yuan slowly tilted his head until he was staring at the sky. However, there was nothing there. After taking a deep breath, Yuan activated the dragon's gaze again. This is. Yuan subconsciously took a few steps back with a shocked look on his face when he saw the thing flying above the Dragon's Peak. What's the matter, brother Yuan? Xiaohua asked him since she couldn't see anything in the sky. Yuan pointed at the sky with his entire arm trembling, and he said, There. There is a huge glowing dragon flying in the sky. New novel chapters are published on lightno/velpu/b/c/om. What? Xiaohua cannot see anything in the sky, she quickly said. I am not lying. It's really there. It's circling around the area like a guardian of some sorts. Yuan hastily said. No matter how hard she tried to look, Xiaohua couldn't see the dragon Yuan was talking about. Can you describe it, Brother Yuan? She then asked. It's at least 200 meters in length, and it doesn't appear to have a physical body, only a golden outline. It resembles the great one I saw on the 100th floor in the tower. Yuan described the dragon to the best of his abilities. That sounds like... Just as Xiaohua opened her mouth to speak, Yuan suddenly said in a surprised voice. Oh, it just noticed me, and it's looking directly at me. Yuan looked at the golden dragon in the sky that was also staring back at him with a profound gaze. Follow current novels on lightnov/lpub. Come after a few moments of silence and stillness, suddenly, the dragon began moving. Yuan's eyes widened with shock when he saw the dragon start to fly at him like a meteor, immediately sending chills down his spine. Chapter 265 Dragon Essence. Seeing the golden dragon flying at him, Yuan subconsciously retrieved his Empyrean overlord and took a defensive stance as it felt like an extremely powerful and violent beast was rushing at him at this moment. Brother Yuan? Xiaohua was puzzled by Yuan's sudden alertness and called out to him. But alas, Yuan was too focused on the dragon to hear Xiaohua's voice. Whoosh! The dragon slithered through the air in a smooth movement before headbutting Yuan. Yuan held the Empyrean overlord in front of his body to block the attack, but to his surprise, as though it was a ghost, the dragon went directly through his sword and straight into his body. Ah! Yuan shouted in a surprised voice when the dragon suddenly invaded his body. What happened, Brother Yuan? Xiaohua left the necklace and asked him. The golden dragon went inside my body. He quickly said. Brother Yuan, Xiaohua believes that the dragon is. The most up-to-date novels are published on li/novel/pub/com. Right as Xiaohua spoke, a notification appeared before him. Ding! Heaven refining physique activated, minor dragon essence has been refined, soul strength plus 10,000, your divine sense has reached a new level, divine sense mastery level, 1-2, dragon essence, so it's not harmful to your body. In fact, it will even benefit you greatly. Xiaohua said. Dragon essence? What is that? I just gained a lot of stats from absorbing the minor dragon essence. Yuan said. This content is taken from lighten//ovalpub.com. What? Brother Yuan already absorbed the dragon essence? Xiaohua looked at him with a gawking expression on her small face. Unlike monster cores, monster essences are very unique in the way they are created and absorbed. When a magical beast dies, its dantian will form into a monster core that allows cultivators to absorb some of its spiritual energy. However, when it comes to essences, they can be created without needing the magical beast's death. With that being said, only powerful magical beasts have the ability to create essences, mostly divine beasts like the Great One, and even then it requires a lot of energy and time to form its own essence. As for why magical beasts would waste their time and effort on creating essences, it's sort of training for them, like how Yuan trains his divine sense, as it strengthens their control over their own spiritual energy as well as their soul and mental strength. Brother Yuan, even though it's only a minor essence, it normally takes months if not years for an individual to fully absorb it, yet you manage to absorb it so quickly, almost instantaneously. It's almost as shocking as your eating habits. Xiaohua said to him with her eyes wide as saucers. Does absorbing monster essences not give you qi like monster cores do? Yuan asked her since he didn't get any qi from absorbing the dragon essence. Essences are unique in the way that different essences will have different effects. Some essence can give you qi while others will grant you other benefits such as increased physical strength or mental strength. Xiaohua explained to him. I see, and the dragon essence happened to give me soul strength. Yuan mumbled. What? Xiao Hua suddenly shouted in a shocked voice. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Com/s soul strength? The dragon essence gave Brother Yuan soul strength? Is this true? Xiao Hua asked him in a somewhat nervous manner. Why yes. Yuan nodded, startled by her reaction. That's incredibly lucky, Brother Yuan. Out of everything one can obtain from essences, soul strength is the rarest and most sought after essence by even top cultivators since it directly improves your soul strength without needing any soul techniques or training. Xiao Hua said to him in an excited voice, her body slightly shaking from excitement as though she was the one who received the benefit. Either the founder of this place is incredibly generous to leave behind the dragon essence or he wasn't the one who put the dragon essence here. Yuan nodded and continued to ask, by the way, it's only a minor dragon essence. Does this mean there are even higher qualities of essences? Xiao Hua nodded and said, that's right. There are minor essences, major essences, and divine essences. I see. Yuan mumbled, and he continued, what about methods one can use to find essences? This dragon essence was hidden in plain sight yet nobody managed to find it despite thousands of years. However, Xiao Hua shook her head and said, just like how each essence has different effects, they also have different properties. Therefore, there is no single method to look for essences. They're all incredibly rare and can only be found by chance or fate. As for Brother Yuan, since only you managed to find it despite it being in plain sight for so many years, one can say the dragon essence was fated to be found by you. In other words, it's fate. Visit l/it Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. Fate, huh? Yuan suddenly recalled his meeting with Senior Bai and their talk about destiny and fate. Perhaps he was destined for this fortunate encounter. Suddenly, another phenomenon occurred in the place, as all of the spiritual energy gathered at Dragon's Peak began dispersing in every direction. What's going on? Yuan looked at the change with wide eyes. Xiao Hua responded in a calm voice, the dragon essence was what attracted the spiritual energy to this area. Now that it's gone since Brother Yuan absorbed it, there is no longer anything attracting the spiritual energy, so it's only natural they are leaving. Soon, this place will return to being a normal place without its abundance in spiritual energy. I see, Xiao Hua then continued, Brother Yuan, you should take this opportunity to cultivate and absorb as much spiritual energy as you can since it'll take some time before the spiritual energy in this place returns to normal. Yuan nodded and immediately sat down and began reciting his cultivation technique. Whoosh! The spiritual energy that was dispersing suddenly stopped leaving and began approaching Yuan as though they were attracted to him, quickly creating a small tornado around him. However, Yuan could only feel a gentle and comfortable breeze around him. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meanwhile, his cultivation base began to soar closer and closer to Spirit Master. Chapter 266 9 Dragon Symbols. Ding. Due to your title Pang City's hero, cultivation speed has increased by 10%, ding. Due to your untainted body, cultivation speed has increased by 100%, ding. Environmental effect has increased your cultivation speed by 500%, plus 3,852 chi, plus 3,946 chi, plus 3,750 chi, plus 3,656 chi. The most up-to-date novels are published on light/nov/lpub. Due to his title and untainted body, Yuan's cultivation speed more than doubled, not to mention the Dragon's Peak that was abundant with spiritual energy. Yuan absorbed over 3,000 chi every second, and in just a minute, had absorbed over 200,000 chi. Meanwhile, Xiao Hua sat in front of Yuan and watched him cultivate in silence. What a crazy cultivation speed for someone at the spirit warrior realm. He's absorbing the spiritual energy like he's eating food, almost like an unstoppable monster. Xiao Hua thought to herself as she stared at Yuan's peaceful face with admiration on her face. At this rate, Brother Yuan will absorb enough spiritual energy to break through to Spirit Master in a month. And even though Brother Yuan won't become a Spirit Master in time for the mystic realm, it's already an incredible feat, especially since we're still in the lower heavens where the quality of qi isn't as good. After an hour of cultivation, unbeknownst to Yuan or Xiaohua, inside Yuan's body, the dragon essence had absorbed just finished merging with the golden symbols engraved in his bones, causing them to change slightly before emitting a bright and golden glow. Whoosh! The spiritual energy in the area suddenly grew restless, and they began rushing toward Yuan's body as though Yuan's body had become a black hole with intense suction. What's going on? Xiaohua mumbled in a dazed voice when she noticed this sudden change, and it was unlike anything she has ever seen before. Ding! Updated from //lightnovelpub/com, 9 dragon symbols has been activated. 9 dragon symbols have reached level 1. Due to the 9 dragon symbols, your cultivation speed have increased by 1000%. Yuan's cultivation speed suddenly increased by a whopping 1000%, shocking and puzzling Yuan at the same time, as he had no idea what this 9 dragon symbols was or how had obtained it. However, he didn't think about it too much for now and decided to focus on cultivating, as he was worried that if had stopped, this sudden boost would disappear as well. +8 for 11 qi, +8 301 qi, +8 569 qi. His qi gathering speed per second immediately doubled, allowing him to absorb over 8,000 qi every single second, and in just an hour, Yuan had managed to absorb almost 30 million qi. Visit /li/novelpub/com for the best novel reading experience. Xiaohua watched Yuan cultivate with her mouth wide open and jaw dropped. What caused this sudden and explosive increase in cultivation speed? Does it have anything to do with the dragon essence? However, she has never heard of essences having such a unique ability after being absorbed. After all, even though the dragon essence had the ability to gather spiritual energy at Dragon's Peak, such an ability shouldn't have transferred to Yuan after he absorbed it. Otherwise, it would be too powerful, and the heavens would never allow such a flaw to exist. Wait a second. Brother Yuan also managed to obtain a magical beast's ability after he consumed its monster core. Maybe he can also do the same with their essence? But that would be too. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Yuan's unbelievable existence. Whenever it feels like she has witnessed all there is to Yuan's talents, he would suddenly show even more talents like some sort of magic show. But instead of taking out a rabbit from his hat, Yuan takes out unbelievable talents that would leave anyone filled with jealousy if they knew about it. After another 6 hours of cultivation, Yuan decided to finally stop cultivating as it was getting late. Xiaohua? You were sitting there this entire time? Yuan finally noticed Xiaohua sitting in front of him when he opened his eyes. Yes. Xiaohua nodded with a dazed look on her face. I made some really good progress today, Yuan said with a smile on his face, and then he asked, by the way, do you know anything about the 9 dragon symbols? 9 dragon symbols? Xiaohua has never heard of that before. Is that a treasure? She asked with a tilted head. I don't know, but I think that is what's causing the explosive increase in my cultivation speed. Follow current novels on li/tn/ovalpub/com 9 dragon symbols. Perhaps the phoenix will know something. Xiaohua then said. Yuan nodded. I'll ask her when she comes back. A few moments later, Xiaohua entered the necklace before Yuan logged off the game. Once Meishio returned, she immediately went to cook dinner as usual before feeding Yuan. After feeding Yuan, Meishio went to take a quick shower before retiring for the day inside her room. Let's see if his friend has arrived yet. Meishio wore the helmet and immediately went inside Cultivation Online. Once she was inside the game, Meishio looked around the place, and she immediately noticed a small commotion right outside the city gates. Meishio narrowed her eyes at the crowd of people that appeared to be surrounding an individual, a very beautiful young woman wearing tight red robes and a very mature body. This content is taken from lightnov/lpub/com, that must be her. Meishio mumbled to herself before she approached her. Excuse me. Meishio tried to push her way to the young woman in the red dress, but alas, the crowd was too strong for her to do anything. Get out of my way. A clear voice suddenly resounded loudly. The place immediately turned silent, and a path quickly appeared in the crowd. A few moments later, the young woman in the seductive red clothes walked out of the crowd and stopped in front of Meisho. A naturally bored face and someone who doesn't understand fun. You fit the description the young master gave me. Are you the young master's friend? Feng Yuxiang asked Meisho. By young master, do you mean Yuan? Meisho asked. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, looks like I have found the right person. Come with me, they'll bring you to the eastern continent so you can meet with the young master. Author's note, for those confused about the numbers, it's cultivation speed x base qi absorption rate. Yuan's cultivation technique absorbs around 500 qi per second, and it's 610% and 1610% of that 500, not 1000% of 3000. The source of this content is lightno/ve//pub. Com. Chapter 267 A New Experience. After meeting with Meisho, Feng Yuxiang hugged Mixia's waist and flew towards the heavens as she did with Yu Rou, and they proceeded to make their way towards the eastern continent. This is, Meisho was shocked when Feng Yuxiang suddenly brought her into the air, and when she looked down, her body began trembling non-stop uncontrollably. Are you scared of heights? Feng Yuxiang asked Meisho when she noticed her shaking. Meisho was speechless. Since she has never flown in a plane or went to any tall places before, she was never aware of her acrophobia. In other words, she was scared of heights. Don't worry, I won't accidentally drop you or anything. You can close your eyes, too. Feng Yuxiang suggested this to her. Meisho immediately closed her eyes, but the image of the distant ground still lingered inside her mind. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, what's your relationship with the young master? I know you're friends, but I want to know more about you and the young master. Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked her. A friend, huh? Is that what Yuan said? A slight smile appeared on Mixia's face. You're not friends? Then what are you to him? Follow current novels on li/gitnovelp/ub/com. I'm more of his caretaker, a servant so to speak, Meisho said. Oh. You're his servant as well? Feng Yuxiang said in a surprised tone. I'm also the young master's servant. Meisho opened her eyes again to look at Feng Yuxiang with wide eyes filled with surprise. How could someone like her be a servant? She looks like a powerful madam from an influential family more than anything. What's with that look? You don't believe me? Feng Yuxiang raised her eyebrows at Mixia's doubtful gaze. Yuan. He called you a phoenix. Are you really a phoenix? Meisho suddenly asked. That's right. I'm a phoenix, but I have my powers sealed right now so I cannot show you. Feng Yuxiang nodded. Is that so? The two of them became silent afterward, and it remained that way for a couple of minutes until Feng Yuxiang suddenly said, well, take the teleportation device that's at the city of Liang, which is about 4 hours away. 4 hours? Meisho was slightly surprised. Visit light//no/velpub. Com for the best novel reading experience. How long do you think it'll take us to reach the eastern continent and meet up with Yuan? Do you think we'll make it before sunrise? While Meisho didn't mind losing sleep for a single night, she couldn't neglect Yuan's breakfast no matter what. By sunrise, huh? It's definitely doable, but I don't know if you'll be able to handle the speed, since you're immortal. Feng Yuxiang said to her. I will be fine, said Meisho. If you say so. Feng Yuxiang nodded, and she immediately raised her flying speed, nearly doubling it. Meisho could feel her chest tightening from the speed increase. Even though Feng Yuxiang shielded Meisho from most of the wind pressure with her spiritual energy, it was still very powerful for a mortal who hasn't even started cultivating yet. Meanwhile, inside his own room, Yuan tried to activate his divine sense again. Monster cores don't affect my real-life cultivation when I consume them inside the game, but monster essences might be a different case. Hopefully, the dragon essence will finally enable me to use my divine sense in this world as well. The source of this content is lightno/v/lpub. With that in mind, Yuan took a deep breath and tried to activate his divine sense. Yuan could feel his spiritual energy reacting to his attempt, but in the end, he was still unable to activate his divine sense. I still can't activate my divine sense, however, there was a response at least. It shouldn't be long before I can actually use my divine sense. Maybe if I raise a couple more levels. Even though Yuan couldn't activate his divine sense yet, he was feeling more motivated and hopeful than ever. Thus, Yuan began cultivating. However, immediately after he began cultivating, Yuan noticed something different about his cultivation speed. It suddenly increased again. The source of this content is lig/tno/velpub. While it isn't as explosive as his cultivation improvements in Cultivation Online, it was still a pretty big difference compared to the last time had cultivated, and his cultivation quickly moved towards 5th level Spirit Warrior. 2 hours have passed since Feng Yuxiang and Meishio met, and they just arrived at the city of Liang, arriving 2 hours earlier than anticipated. Feng Yuxiang landed directly in front of the city's entrance, shocking the guards there. Seniors. Everybody there bowed to Feng Yuxiang when they landed, startling Meishio, who knew nothing about cultivators and their culture. It was a new experience for her. How may we help you, esteemed seniors? The guards in front of them said before bowing to them again. We're here to use the teleportation device, said Feng Yuxiang. I understand. Please, follow us. The guard proceeded to lead Feng Yuxiang and Meishio into the city and towards the teleportation device. This content is taken from /lightnovelpub. On the way, Meishio looked around the scenery and the people there with a somewhat intrigued gaze. Since she rarely leaves the house and only goes out to go to school with Yu Ro, Meishio doesn't have much experience in the outside world. You're somewhat different from what the young master described. Feng Yuxiang suddenly said to her. Me? What did he say about me? Meishio asked her with a curious look. Feng Yuxiang smiled and said, the young master said it's hard for you to find entertainment in things, almost like you're always bored. I see. To Feng Yuxiang's surprise, a somewhat sweet smile appeared on Meixia's face. Sometime later, they arrived at the teleportation device. Where would you like to go, esteemed seniors? The guard guiding them asked. Updated from Lightnovelpub, the Eastern Continent. Feng Yuxiang immediately responded. The Eastern Continent. That's a little bit far. A perplexed expression appeared on the guard's face. Seeing the guard's face, Feng Yuxiang continued, don't worry, we're not going to use the teleportation device for free. I'll pay for it. The guard's expression immediately relaxed after hearing Feng Yuxiang's words, and he quickly nodded, I understand. Please, follow me to the front. Chapter 268 Nothing is impossible in the cultivation world. Excuse me. Coming through. The guard forcefully led Feng Yuxiang and Meishio through the crowd that was waiting in line for their turn at the teleportation device. This caused the people already in line to frown, especially since most of them were from somewhat big families, and this was a slap in the face to them since they had to stand in line like everybody else. Hey! What gives? How come they get to skip the line while the rest of us stand here? What's so special about them? Someone in the line suddenly shouted out loud in a frustrated voice, calling them out. That's right. Do you know who I am? Il complained to the mayor. The guard quickly turned around and responded to that person in a sarcastic voice. Well, if you have the ability to fly, I will also allow you to skip the line. How does that sound? Fly? The people there raised their eyebrows in a puzzled manner. Do you have a problem with us going first? Feng Yuxiang suddenly turned around and spoke, even releasing a little bit of her Spirit Grandmaster cultivation base. Follow current novels on lig////novelpub. Spirit Grandmaster. The people there were immensely shocked by Feng Yuxiang's cultivation base. Just where on earth did this Spirit Grandmaster come from? And how come they don't recognize her? Please forgive us, Senior Grandmaster. The people there quickly lowered their heads and apologized to Feng Yuxiang. Feng Yuxiang didn't say anything else and continued to approach the teleportation device with Meishio following behind her. How overbearing. Meishio thought to herself, yet she found it somewhat admirable. A few moments later, they arrived in front of the teleportation device. Esteemed seniors, because the eastern continent is very far away, we can only teleport you to 3 places. Are you fine with that? The person managing the teleportation device asked them. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, teleport us to the one closest to the Dragon Essence Temple. Visit light/novel pub /c//om for a better experience, the Dragon Essence Temple, right? Give me a moment to look at the map. The worker proceeded to look at the large map that was pinned to a portable board nearby. It had the location of every city in the lower heavens with a teleportation device. That would be the Iron Lotus City, which is approximately 290,000 miles from our current location. As for the price, it will be 3,400,000 gold, esteemed seniors, 3,400,000 gold. Meishio was inwardly shocked when she heard the astronomical amount of gold needed to use the teleportation device. Yuro had told her about the exchange rates for gold and real-life money, and it was about 1 gold for every $7. In this case, 3,400,000 gold was worth at least $23,800,000. This amount of money is more than enough to feed an entire family luxuriously for their entire life. And they're going to spend all of it on transportation? Not even the richest family in their world would dare to spend so lavishly. Just how on earth did Yuan make someone like her into his servant? Meishio couldn't help but become curious. Hey, race 2,500 spirit stones. Keep the change. Feng Yuxiang handed a storage pouch to the worker in a nonchalant manner, acting as though she was only buying some cheap food. Thank you very much, esteemed senior. Please give me a moment to prepare the teleportation device for you. Visit lighten//ovalpub.com for a better experience. The worker accepted the storage pouch with excitement before counting the spirit stones inside. Once he confirmed the payment, the worker went to set the settings on the teleportation device so it would teleport them to their desired location. A few minutes later, the worker returned to them and said, the teleportation device is ready. Just let me know when and I'll activate it. Once activated, you have 60 seconds to enter the teleportation device before it loses power. Feng Yuxiang turned to look at Meishio and asked her, are you ready? Meishio nodded. Let's go then. The two of them stood before the teleportation device a few moments later, and once the worker activated the device, they walked into the portal. Meishio felt a little dizzy after entering the teleportation device, and the feeling lingered for some time even after the teleportation was finished. Are you okay? Feng Yuxiang asked her. For more, visit lig/htn//ovalpub.com. Yes. Just a little dizzy. I'm surprised you didn't throw up since mortals can't handle much spiritual energy, and you just walked through a portal created from a large amount of spiritual energy. Feng Yuxiang said to her. And she continued, you must have a strong soul strength. Makes me wonder why you're not a cultivator. You might have the talent for it. I have no reason to become a cultivator, Meishio said. After all, she only joined the game so she could help Yuan out. No reason. There are plenty of reasons for one to become a cultivator. Wealth, fame, status, power. Do you not have desires? Feng Yuxiang asked her. My desire. A certain thought appeared in her mind. I do have one, but becoming a cultivator won't help me realize that dream. It's impossible. Meishio shook her head. Impossible? Nothing is impossible in the cultivation world. At least this is what I learned after following the young master for a short time. New novel chapters are published on /li/tno/velpub.com. Yuan? Meishio raised her eyebrows. Feng Yuxiang nodded and said, that's right. The young master is an incredible existence with a limitless future. I have only been with him for a few weeks and I can only imagine how strong he'll grow in the future. Anyways, we can continue this conversation later. Are you still dizzy? We won't make it to the Dragon Essence Temple by sunrise if we linger around for too long. Feng Yuxiang said to her. I am okay. We can continue. Meishio nodded. Okay. The two of them returned to the air shortly later, and Feng Yuxiang continued chatting with Meishio like they were already friends while they soared in the clouds. Perhaps it was due to their similar background as Yuan's servant, but Feng Yuxiang found Meishio to be an interesting individual who was very different from the average person. Chapter 269 We Should Play Together. Splash. Right as the sun began rising at the horizon in the real world, a refreshing sensation surged from Yuan's body as he made a breakthrough and reached 5th-level Spirit Warrior. After the breakthrough, Yuan stopped cultivating and tried to activate his divine sense again. A few moments later, he stopped and thought to himself, I still can't activate my divine sense, but I can feel its progress. Just a little more. Meanwhile, inside the game, Feng Yuxiang said to Meishio after flying for many hours without rest, I can see the Dragon Essence Temple. We've arrived. Meishio, who was just asleep, slowly opened her eyes to see the Dragon Essence Temple in the distance. This is a sect? It looks no different than a city, she mumbled. Most sects are a city itself, but unlike normal cities, only its disciples or approved guests are allowed inside. Furthermore, there are no businesses in sections. While there may be a few, it's all set up by the sect and not for profit. Feng Yuxiang explained to her. Anyways, it's sunrise. Let's get you to the young master's living quarters. This content is taken from live//tno/velpub. Feng Yuxiang then silently flew towards the Dragon Essence Temple before landing in the backyard of Yuan's living quarters a few minutes later since she didn't have the keys to the house. Once they landed, Meishio said to Feng Yuxiang, Thank you for bringing me here, Senior Feng. I have to leave now. Feng Yuxiang nodded, I was just doing my job. Anyways, you can call me Feng like the young master. Meishio logged off the game shortly later whilst Feng Yuxiang relaxed in the backyard to wait for Yuan to return. After logging off the game, Meishio removed the helmet from her head and sat on the bed with a somewhat dazed look on her face. What an experience. It really felt like I was living in another world just now. Meishio mumbled to herself, and she finally understood why the hype and popularity for this game existed, as it was completely justified. After sitting there for a few moments, Meishio stood up and went to prepare breakfast for Yuan, and to her surprise, she didn't feel any fatigue or sleepy like she'd expected after staying inside the game for the entire night. While the soup cooked, Meishio went to wash her face, brush her teeth, and prepare for school. Once breakfast was prepared, Meishio knocked on Yuan's room and said, It's time for breakfast. Visit Light Novel Pub, C/OM for the best novel reading experience, I'm awake. Yuan's voice resounded. Meishio opened the door and pushed the mini cart inside his room. I met with Feng last night, and she took me from the western continent to the eastern continent, even arriving at your living quarters right before I logged off, Meishio said as she fed Yuan breakfast. Oh. Already? That was quicker than I'd expected. How did it go? Did you enjoy it? Yuan asked her. After a moment of silence, Meishio said, Yes, I enjoyed it. It was a unique and mythical experience. Meeting Feng, learning about cultivators and the cultivation world, using the teleportation device, and the most shocking experience of all, flying in the sky. As long as you had fun. I know you only intend on playing the game so you can help me sell items and gold, but you should really consider playing with me. We can travel the cultivation world and experience everything together. Mixia's eyes widened when she heard Yuan's unexpected words, which left her speechless for a good moment. What do you think, Meishio? You're always working, even as a child. In fact, I think we're very similar, in the sense that we're always working for the same place. If it weren't for my sudden condition, I'm pretty sure that I would still be working for the Yu family even right now. This may sound crazy, but I no longer see my condition as a curse. Perhaps it is even a blessing in disguise. Follow current novels on l/i/g/nov/lpub. Com, telling me to play with you. Is that a command? Meishio suddenly asked him. Of course not. It's a request, Meishio. If you don't want to play with me, that's fine. However, from your words just now, I could tell that you really enjoyed your time in cultivation online. If that's the case, you might as well continue playing. You might even find another purpose in life besides working as I did. Are you really fine with me being by your side in cultivation online as well? Meishio asked again, her voice sounding somewhat nervous. Why did you make it sound like I can't stand your presence? Even though we've always been near each other for almost our entire lives, I've never once had such thoughts, and we've never really played together before. This is a great opportunity to do so. But I don't really have the time. Meishio sighed. It's fine. We can play together whenever you're free or don't have school on the weekends. I also don't mind missing a meal once in a while so we can play more. Yuan said with a smile on his face. After a moment of silence, Meishio said, Okay. I understand. I'll play with you. That's great. After breakfast, Meishio went to school with Yu-Ro whilst Yuan continued his training inside cultivation online. Follow current novels on /l/i/tno/velpub. Oh, right. I should go meet with Feng Feng first since she's probably waiting for me. Right as Yuan thought about returning to his living quarters to meet up with Feng Yuxiang, a trail of flames could be seen traveling in the sky like a shooting star, flying toward Yuan's location. And for some reason, Yuan immediately recognized this flame. Feng Feng. A few moments later, Feng Yuxiang entered Yuan's body. I'm back, young master, she said to him afterward. Welcome back, Feng Feng. And thank you for your hard work. I'll let you drink some of my blood later. Yuan said to her. Really? Thank you, young master. Feng Yuxiang's excited voice quickly resounded, as it has been some time since she tasted his delicious blood. Chapter 273 Years Old. After Feng Yuxiang returned to his body, Yuan sat down on the soft ground and began his cultivation. The still atmosphere suddenly changed when Yuan started to absorb the spiritual energy in the air, and a small tornado appeared around him once again. +8, 174 Qi, +8 for 12 Qi, +8, 059 Qi. Feng Yuxiang was greatly shocked when she saw this, as she had just returned and didn't know about the dragon essence. What's happening? Did the young master consume a treasure that increased his cultivation speed? Feng Yuxiang decided to ask Xiao Hua using her spiritual sense. Brother Yuan absorbed a minor dragon essence, which gave him not only increased soul strength but also cultivation speed. I think. Xiao Hua responded to her. What? Dragon essence? Soul strength. That's the rarest property one can obtain from essences. How lucky. Feng Yuxiang grew even more shocked after hearing this. Wait. Cultivation speed? I have never heard of essences giving such an effect before, she suddenly realized. New novel chapters are published on lightnovelpub.com. You may not know this, but Brother Yuan not only has the ability to consume monster cores. He can even obtain their abilities after consuming them. Perhaps it also applies to essences. What? That's impose. Feng Yuxiang wanted to say that such a thing couldn't be possible, but after recalling Yuan's unfathomable talents and his legendary physique, she decided to not continue that sentence. After a moment of silence, Xiao Hua suddenly spoke. Phoenix, you're a divine beast as well, right? Why don't you create some phoenix essence for Brother Yuan? You make it sound like it's easy making essence. Feng Yuxiang responded in a sighing voice. I also have my powers sealed, so I cannot do that in a reasonable amount of time. Perhaps once the curse is lifted, I will be able to create some phoenix essence for the young master, but in my current condition, that's impossible. Yuan cultivated in silence, not moving from that spot for 10 hours straight. At the end of the day, had obtained a little over 300 million qi. In just 2 days, Yuan had managed to accumulate around 500 million qi, which is enough qi for someone at first-level spirit apprentice to enter 4th-level spirit warrior. After he stopped cultivating, Yuan logged off the game to wait for Meishio to return from school. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Sometime later, Meishio returned home, cooked dinner, and began feeding Yuan. Yuan. Can I ask you why you decided to use this name? Meishio suddenly asked him. After a moment of silence, Yuan said, that was my name before I was adopted. Meixia's eyes widened slightly from surprise. Now that she thought about it, she didn't know anything about Yuan's life before he was adopted into the Yu family. As you already know, I was adopted into the Yu family when I was just 3 years old. Yu Ro was still a baby at that time, so she doesn't know about it. I don't know my real parents, and when I was in the orphanage, everyone would call me Yuan. I see. Do you know why I was adopted into the Yu family in the first place? Yuan suddenly asked her. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience, I do not. Meishio said. Someone had posted to the internet a video of a 3-year-old playing a piano, which immediately became an internet sensation. Of course, that kid was me, and when the Yu family saw that video, they decided to adopt me and train me so I can play for the family. At least that's why I think I was adopted. Otherwise, I cannot imagine the Yu family adopting me for any other reason. Meishio was speechless after learning this for the first time. So the Yu family adopted Yuan merely for his musical talents? Of course, this made sense and wasn't too shocking considering how the Yu family treated him after Yuan could no longer play the instruments. I'm sorry. Meishio suddenly apologized to him. Why are you apologizing to me? You're not the one at fault here. Yuan chuckled. I know, but I am also part of the Yu family. Meishio sighed. Once dinner was finished, Meishio went to do her necessities before going to sleep. Even though I missed sleep last night, I didn't feel tired or sleepy at all during school today. How weird. Meishio thought to herself. Although she was trained to do her job even with very little to no sleep, it was odd for her to feel no fatigue despite lacking sleep. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. The following day, Yuan returned to cultivation online and proceeded to spend another 10 hours cultivating, bringing the total of qi absorbed to 800 million. I am still about 2 billion qi away from Spirit Master. I might now make it to Spirit Master before the Mystic Realm even with my increased cultivation speed. Yuan thought to himself. 3 days later, Yuan absorbed another 900 million qi, accumulated 1.7 billion qi. Meanwhile, at Carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower, the gamble between Long Yijuan and the other sect master has finally come to an end. Ha ha ha. Long Yijuan exploded with laughter as the last disciple walked out of the tower with a defeated look on his face. The result's obvious. Looks like none of your disciples were able to defeat all 100 floors. I win this bet. Now, hand over your treasures. Long Yijuan said to the fuming sect masters with a wide smug on his face. This isn't the end, sect master Long. We'll be back after the mystic realm. The sect masters there said to him as they reluctantly retrieved their divine grade treasures and handed them to Long Yijuan in front of the spectators, shocking them greatly. Heavens! I thought this entire event was just for show. To think there was so much on the line. The disciples watched with salivating mouths as Long Yijuan held 4 divine grade treasures at once. We're leaving. The other sect masters didn't dare to stay any longer and said to their disciples. Updated from Light Novel Pub. You're leaving already? Don't you want to stay behind a little longer? Perhaps we can sit down for a drink or something. Long Yijuan said to them in a sarcastic voice. Humph. The sect masters pretended they couldn't hear him and disappeared from the Dragon Essence Temple without looking back. Chapter 271 Last 2 spots. After the sect masters and their disciples left, Long Yijuan returned to his headquarters with the other high-ranking sect elders. Ha ha ha. What a bunch of idiots. They really thought they were going to defeat the tower. Long Yijuan laughed merrily as he looked at the 4 divine-grade treasures in his grasp. Sect Master, what should we do now? While it's great that we've obtained these divine-grade treasures, I highly doubt the other sects will just let us keep them. Elder Xian suddenly asked. And he continued, they'll definitely come back for them. Long Yijuan stopped laughing after hearing Elder Xian's words and nodded with a serious look on his face. I am well aware of that. We also have no need for these divine-grade treasures, so I intend on selling it back to them. How much do you intend on selling it for? Elder Bai suddenly asked. Long Yijuan showed a malicious grin and said, the full price, of course. The sect elders were startled, but they were not shocked by Long Yijuan's response. A divine-grade treasure is not something one can just buy even if they have enough money, at least not in the lower heavens where it's extremely scarce, especially when they are powerful treasures that have been passed down for generations. If the Dragon Essence Temple had lost their dragon-slaying saber, despite their wealth, they would have needed to sacrifice a few decades of resources at the very least to purchase it back from the other sections. That's how ridiculously priceless these divine-grade treasures were. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. However, unless the other sects are willing to wage war against the Dragon Essence Temple to get their treasures back, they could only grit their teeth and pay the Dragon Essence Temple every coin for their treasures back. By the way, how's Disciple Yuan? Is he currently training at Dragon's Peak? Long Yijuan suddenly asked Elder Xian. Yes, I took him there the same day you asked me. However, Disciple Fei is currently in closed cultivation, so she will have to enter the Dragon's Peak at another time, said Elder Xian. Long Yijuan nodded and said, that's fine. With the Mystic Realm right around the corner, the most important thing right now is making sure Disciple Yuan is prepared. Although we don't know what will happen in the Mystic Realm this year, it's definitely not going to be easy even with Disciple Yuan assisting us. Therefore, we need to make sure he has everything he needs. By the way, Sect Master, it appears that there are many people looking for Disciple Yuan. It's also why we've been bombarded with visitors lately. Apparently, they are here for Disciple Yuan, and Disciple Yuan doesn't want to be found by them, at least that's what I think. What? Who are these people looking for Disciple Yuan? And what do they want from him? Long Yijuan immediately frowned. We only know that these people are mostly rogue cultivators without any backgrounds. The sect elders have questioned a few of them, and these rogue cultivators all say the same thing. I just want to speak with Player Yuan, said Elder Xian. Player Yuan? Is that Disciple Yuan's title or something? Long Yijuan raised his eyebrows in a puzzled manner. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. And then he said, anyways, regardless of their reason, if Disciple Yuan doesn't want to be bothered by these people, we will assist him. Tighten up the security. Nobody is allowed near the sect unless authorized by me from now on. If they dare get close, beat them up. Hearing Long Yijuan's command, the sect elders responded, yes, Sect Master. One more thing, Sect Master. This is regarding the last 2 spots for the Mystic Realm. Elder Shan said a moment later, and she continued, do we have any names yet? I was just about to bring this topic up. Long Yijuan nodded. Does anyone here have any recommendations? I've been too focused on Disciple Yuan and haven't paid much attention to the other core disciples. Well, besides Disciple Yuan, I can only think of 2 disciples who qualify for the Mystic Realm. Elder Bai said. So you're also thinking about those 2, huh? Long Yijuan mumbled. He then looked around and asked, do any of you have objections to letting those 2 disciples participate in the Mystic Realm with Disciple Yuan? Elder Shan then asked, just to be clear, these 2 disciples follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. It's Gao Dongya and Xue Jia, said Long Yijuan. Gao Dongya is the current leader on the core disciples power ranking. He only became a core disciple 3 years ago and immediately shot up the rankings within months, reaching first place in less than a year of becoming a core disciple, and he has been in that position since then like an immovable mountain. As for Xue Jia, while she is only ranked 13th in the leaderboards, she only recently became a core disciple half a year ago. In terms of talents and potential, she was on par with Gao Dongya. When should we make the announcement? Elder Xian then asked. Tomorrow. Long Yijuan immediately responded. The sect elders there nodded their heads. Meanwhile, in the real world, after dinner, Yuan said to Meishio, the mystic realm is coming up and I am very close to making a breakthrough, so I will stay in the game tonight to cultivate. Okay. Meishio agreed without any complaints. Thus, Yuan went back into the game sometime later, and he proceeded to spend the entire night cultivating. While increasing his cultivation in the real world is important, he also didn't want to disappoint those who were counting on him for the mystic realm. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Com, +8, 019 Chi, +8, 132 Chi, +8, 252 Chi. After spending the entire night cultivating, Yuan gained another 250 million Chi, moving towards Spirit Master at a rapid rate. I have only about 1 billion Chi left. If I continue to cultivate at this pace for 2 more days, should be able to break through to Spirit Master. Yuan thought to himself as he logged off at sunrise for breakfast before returning to the game for another day of cultivation. Chapter 272 The Three Names. Early in the morning shortly after sunrise, Long Yijuan summoned all of the core disciples within the Dragon Essence Temple. Once they received this summoning, regardless of what they were doing, even if they were in closed cultivation at the Immortal Caves, the core disciples gathered at the location of the gathering within an hour. I was wondering when they'll announce this year's participants for the Mystic Realm. Right? They usually announce it a month before the Mystic Realm, but this year they waited until the very last minute. The core disciples there mumbled to each other while they waited for Long Yijuan to show up. I was getting worried that they might forgotten about it for a second. Forget about the Mystic Realm that will determine a sex ranking? Nobody would forget such an important event. Who do you think will get the spots for the Mystic Realm? I think we all know who'll be occupying the first and second spot. ITLL probably be Gao Dongya and Shuejiya, right? Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience, probably? You mean most likely? Out of all of us, they're the most prominent in terms of potential. The only question is who'll get the third spot. What about Liang Qichao? He's always mentioned when one talks about Gao Dongya and Shuejiya. It's possible, but who knows, really? Everyone here has a chance to obtain that third spot. While the core disciples there made their guesses on who'll occupy the third spot, Fei Yuyan stood at the back of the crowd like a bystander with a nonchalant look on her face. Even though he's not a core disciple, it's already obvious that they'll pick him for the third spot. The image of Yuan's handsome face appeared in Fei Yuyan's head as she thought about him. Suddenly, someone tapped her on the shoulder, causing her to turn around. What do you want? Fei Yuyan immediately frowned after seeing Xian Wuhan standing behind her with an innocent-looking smile on her face. Who do you think will get the third spot for the Mystic Realm? Xian Wuhan suddenly asked her. Fei Yuyan silently looked at her for a moment before speaking. You should already know the answer to that question. Are you making fun of me? New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. Com, you're no fun at all. Xian Wuhan shrugged, and then she continued, are you disappointed? Why would I be? I never hoped to be picked for the Mystic Realm in the first place. Fei Yuyan said. HAA. Xian Wuhan sighed and said, sometimes I wonder why you're even in the Dragon Essence Temple. You would fit more with the Heavenly Melody Academy instead. Fei Yuyan remained silent at her remarks. A few moments later, someone there suddenly said, look. It's Gao Dongya. He's managed to break through to the 7th level of the Spirit Warrior realm during his closed cultivation. Heavens! Another breakthrough? When was his last breakthrough? 4 months ago? I swear, it feels like he's always one level higher every time I see him. At this rate, he'll reach Spirit Master before he turns 30. What monstrous talents. A handsome young man with long black hair, eyes, and wearing a black disciple uniform could be seen slowly walking towards the disciples with a nonchalant look on his face, causing the disciples there to swallow nervously when they were met by his gaze. Once Gao Dongya arrived at the gathering area, the place grew significantly quieter. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Calm though, a couple of female disciples there approached him and began trying to start a conversation with him. Senior Brother Gao, congratulations on getting a spot. Although it hasn't been announced yet, we're confident that you'll definitely be picked. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Senior Brother Gao. We should have a celebration or something at my living quarters later. The other core disciples acted as though they couldn't hear their obvious flirting, as it was a common sight for the top disciples to have admirers. Che. What a bunch of sluts. Just wait until they learn about Yuan. I won't be surprised even if they remove their clothes on the spot for him. Don't you think so, Disciple Fei? Xian Wuhan asked her in a low voice. Fei Yuyan looked at Xian Wuhan with disbelief on her face, but she managed to resist herself from responding to that claim in the end. A few minutes later, the disciples began talking again as a pretty young lady approached the crowd. Looks like Xue Jie also experienced a breakthrough. Third-level spirit warrior at 20 years old. Her talents are definitely on par with Gao Dongya, if not slightly behind. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. And just like how the female disciples surrounded Gao Dongya, some of the male disciples there approached Xue Jie and began trying to strike a conversation with her. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Fairy Xue. Just a glance and I can already tell that you've become prettier. Fairy Xue, how about we have breakfast at the Dragon Pavilion after this gathering? It'll be my treat. Sometime later, Long Yijuan and a few of the higher-ranking sect elders such as Elder Xian and Elder Shan arrived at the gathering area. Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Grand Elders. Every disciple there lowered their heads and greeted them the moment they got close enough. After standing still, Long Yijuan spoke in a loud voice. I'm sure you all know why I gathered all of you here today. The Mystic Realm is in 4 days, and we will be announcing the disciples that were chosen to represent the Dragon Essence Temple and participate in the Mystic Realm right now. Long Yijuan cleared his throat before going straight into the subject without any speeches like usual. The disciples that will be participating in the Mystic Realm will be Disciple Gao Dongya and Disciple Xue Jie. The core disciples didn't react much to the announcement since they had already expected this result, and they all patiently waited for the third name. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. However, to the disciples' surprise, Long Yijuan said in a calm voice, "That's all." What? The disciples' eyes widened with shock and disbelief. What about the third spot? There should be 3 disciples in total participating in the Mystic Realm. Where's the third name? What happened to the third spot? Chapter 273. Who's the third disciple? Sect Master. That's only 2 names. What happened to the third spot? I thought we were given 3 spots for the Mystic Realm. One of the disciples there decided to ask him. Long Yijuan turned to look at the disciple who just spoke and responded in a calm voice. Indeed, the Dragon Essence Temple has been given 3 spots, and there will be 3 disciples participating in the Mystic Realm. However, I won't be naming the third disciple for now. Long Yijuan's words dumbfounded the disciples. He won't be naming the third disciple? Is it because they haven't decided on the third person yet, or do they want to keep this individual hidden for some reason? Gao Dongya narrowed his eyes with an uncertain expression on his face. Meanwhile, Xue Jie raised her eyebrows and thought to herself, the sect master is clearly trying to hide this individual. But why? After pondering for a moment, the image of 2 glowing golden eyes behind a black jade mask appeared in her thoughts, causing her body to tremble. It couldn't be. Xue Jie cried inwardly after recalling the cultivation prodigy who'd managed to comprehend 100% of the tablet of comprehension when she participated as an observer. While the Dragon Essence Temple has never sent a disciple that wasn't a core disciple to the Mystic Realm, there were no rules stating that it must be a core disciple. It's possible. That masked person might take the third spot. Xue Jie thought to herself. Updated from Light Novel Pub. However, she hasn't heard of this person ever since the disciple examination ended. What happened to that person, anyway? Did he join the sect? Or did he leave? Shuijie wondered to herself, feeling the desire to meet with this cultivation genius once again. Sometime later, another disciple raised his hands and asked, "Sect Master, does that mean you've already picked a disciple for the third spot or you're still thinking?" The disciples there swallowed nervously after hearing that question, as they also had the same question in their mind. Long Yijuan quickly responded, "The third spot is already occupied by a disciple." "If that's the case, why can't you tell us who this disciple is?" "While we have no complaints about disciple Gao and disciple Shui participating in the mystic realm since they definitely qualify more than us, we cannot say the same for this third disciple," said a disciple. And he continued, "And if I'm correct, we're allowed to challenge the sect's decision if we, the core disciples, believe that someone isn't qualified to participate in the mystic realm, as that's how it's always been. Indeed, you may challenge the sect's decision. However, that only applies when the disciple in question is questionable. In this case, it is without a doubt that this disciple qualifies for the mystic realm," Long Yijuan said in a confident voice. The disciples exchanged puzzled glances with each other. Just who is this disciple that has so much support and confidence from the sect master? Hell, even the sect elders there showed no signs of doubt, clearly showing their support for the sect master. Visit Light Novel.com for the best novel reading experience. Seeing the doubtful atmosphere, Long Yijuan suddenly smiled and said, "How about this? I am willing to bet my position as sect master of this sect that this disciple will, without a doubt, bring the Dragon Essence Temple to at least rank 3 at the mystic realm. If we achieve any less, I will resign from my position." What? Not just the disciples but even the sect elders there were greatly baffled by Long Yijuan's announcement. Sect master. That's a little. Elder Xian said to him in a nervous voice. While he also believes that Yuan would achieve a high rank in the mystic realm, nothing in this world is certain, especially when it comes to the mystic realm. "Sect master, you don't have to do that. We won't doubt your decision any longer, so please, take back that statement." The disciples said to him in a panicked manner, as they couldn't have expected such a turn of events. However, Long Yijuan remained resolute and said, "This is not about your trust in me, but my trust in this disciple and my own judgment. If my judgment turns out to be wrong and it costs the Dragon Essence Temple the mystic realm, I don't deserve to be the sect master. That's all." The place quickly turned dead silent as nobody there could find any words to say to Long Yijuan, who was clearly very adamant about keeping to his words. The source of this content is Light Novel.com. Does anyone here have anything else to say before I let you all go? Long Yijuan asked them after a moment of silence. The disciples remained silent, as their only question could not be answered at this moment. Then everybody but Gao Dongya and Shuijie may leave, Long Yijuan said to them a few moments later. Once all of the disciples beside the 2 mystic realm participants left, Long Yijuan said to them, "Follow me." Gao Dongya and Shuijie nodded their heads before following Long Yijuan back to the sect master's headquarters, where Long Yijuan proceeded to give them more details about the mystic realm. As you already know, the mystic realm is a month-long event where disciples from their respective sect must work together to obtain points by accomplishing feats within the mystic realm. Of course, this means that the sects with more slots have the advantage since they have more hands helping each other. But don't worry, I am confident that even with 3 people, we'll do fine. Teamwork is a must in the mystic realm, and I want the 2 of you to get used to each other over the next 4 days. Hearing Long Yijuan's words, Gao Dongyu spoke in a calm voice. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better if all 3 participants are here? How can we strengthen our relationships with each other if one of us is missing? Long Yijuan then said, "He's currently cultivating at Dragon's Peak right now, so that's impossible. However, once he's done, I will definitely let you guys meet." Chapter 274 Rainbow Koi. He's training at Dragon's Peak. Both Gao Dongya and Shuijie were surprised by this, since even core disciples such as them would need to go through a lot of trouble before they're allowed to cultivate there. Anyways, let's continue, Long Yijuan said, and he proceeded to speak more about the mystic realm to the 2 disciples. Meanwhile, at Dragon's Peak, Yuan suddenly stopped cultivating and stood up before shouting, "Oh no! I totally forgot about the lecture for the inner court disciple." Lecture? Feng Yuxiang asked him. It was supposed to happen after the inner court disciple examination, but I'd forgotten about it because of the dragon essence. What a blunder. I hope my absence didn't cause any inconvenience. He sighed. It's just a lecture, young master. You should be more worried about the mystic realm than some introduction class. Feng Yuxiang said. Oh, right. Speaking of the mystic realm, do you know anything about this place, Xiaohua, Feng? Yuan asked after sitting down again. No, Xiaohua doesn't know anything about the mystic realm. Xiaohua said, surprising Yuan since she's usually the most knowledgeable. I know about it. Feng Yuxiang's voice quickly resounded, and she continued, it's a very large event in the lower heavens that only occurs once every 10 years. Updated from Light Novel Pub. It's an event where only the most powerful sects in the lower heavens can participate, and the results will determine the sect's rank for the next decade, so it's very important to these elite sects that care so much about their position. As for the participants in question, if you perform well and catch the attention of the judges, there's a very small chance that you'll be given the chance to become a disciple at one of the sects that exist in the upper heaven, spirit heaven. Wait a second. Does this mean the judges for this mystic realm are people from the upper heavens? Yuan asked. That's right. The mystic realm is organized by 7 different sects from the upper heavens. It's a tradition that has existed since ancient times. Feng Yuxiang said. I see. Anything else? Let's talk about the mystic realm itself. From what I heard, the mystic realm is actually a world of its own, meaning it doesn't belong to any of the heavens, said Feng Yuxiang. Anyways, while I haven't been to the mystic realm myself, I have heard plenty of stories about it. Inside the mystic realm, your cultivation base is wiped, so it's almost like you're starting from scratch in a sense. Inside the mystic realm, you can earn points by increasing your cultivation level or defeating magical beasts, and you can even earn points by helping people. Almost everything you do is judged. I see. Yuan mumbled. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Therefore, even if the young master reaches Spirit Master, it won't matter once you're inside the mystic realm. I know, but I still want to reach Spirit Master since I am so close to it. Once I reach Spirit Master, I'll probably take a break from cultivating like this since I don't like spending most of my time sitting still like this. Yuan sighed. Young master, how close are you to your breakthrough? Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked him, and she continued, I have a monster core at the 6th level spirit warrior with me if you want to consume it. Really? But I don't want to accept something so precious from you without giving you anything in return, even if you're my servant. Yuan said to her. How about the young master donates more blood to me in return for the monster core? Feng Yuxiang said. Are you sure? I'll be giving you my blood regardless if you give me the monster core or not. I'm sure, young master. In fact, my body is craving for your blood even as we speak, and I am trying my best to hold it in. If giving you this monster core will allow me to drink your blood even a day sooner, I would not hesitate. After thinking about it for a moment, Yuan nodded his head and said, okay. I'll exchange my blood for your monster core. After all, he was already getting tired of sitting still after just a few days of cultivation, and he hated remaining in one spot for long periods of time since it reminded him of the real world. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Great. Feng Yuxiang appeared from his body after Yuan agreed to accept the monster core, and she retrieved a monster core from her spatial ring. This is a monster core? Yuan raised his eyebrows at the glowing monster core that looked somewhat different from the monster cores he had eaten, as it had this fiery appearance. Did you forget who I was before I became your servant already, young master? I am the owner of one of the most prestigious shops in the Golden Phoenix Bazaar. I have no need for normal treasures, and monster cores are no different. Feng Yuxiang said. And she continued, this monster core belongs to a rainbow koi, an incredibly rare magical beast that can only be found in one place within the lower heavens, the frozen cave, one of the very few danger zones in this world. Rainbow kois are spirit warriors at birth, and they grow incredibly fast. However, they don't really have much combat prowess, if any at all, and they die naturally once they reach Spirit Master, so they have a short lifespan, and if they die naturally, it won't drop its monster core. This is why rainbow koi monster cores are considered a priceless treasure and are sought after by many. Furthermore, people who absorb them have a very small chance to obtain a special power that allows them to control fire, and it gives more spiritual energy than normal monster cores at its level. Feng Yuxiang explained to him. Controlling fire? From a fish? How does that work? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Well, one can control fire using their spiritual energy, but those with this power can control fire without needing spiritual energy, saving them a lot of energy. Furthermore, the monster core enhances one's ability towards fire techniques, so most people looking for them are all practitioners who use techniques related to fire, such as alchemy masters. I see. What a unique monster core. It's definitely different from what I've consumed in the past. Yuan mumbled as he accepted the monster core from Feng Yuxiang. Chapter 275 Spirit Master. While it might not help you break through to Spirit Master, it should close that distance by a lot. Feng Yuxiang said to Yuan as she handed him the fiery-looking monster core that looked as though there were living flames trapped inside. Wow. It's warm. Yuan mumbled after feeling the heat the monster core was emitting on his palms. After taking a deep breath, Yuan popped the rainbow koi's monster core into his mouth, and unlike normal monster cores that only had a sweet taste, the rainbow koi's monster core actually tasted somewhat spicy after the sweetness. Heaven refining physique activated. 1,325,888,196 chi has been refined from the rainbow koi's monster core. 19,691,520,000/19,691,520,000. You have absorbed enough chi for a breakthrough. Because your chi experience is already full, you will not be able to receive any more chi until you reach the next realm. You have met the requirements for a breakthrough. You have reached first level Spirit Master, updated from Light Novel Pub. Plus 10,000 stats. Your advanced senses has developed into superior senses. Superior senses, rank, earth, description, greatly enhances the functions of all available senses permanently. Requires no activation. Heaven refining physique activated. The physique suddenly activated again. You have gained novice fire control, weak fire enhancement, and weak fire resistance from consuming the rainbow koi's monster core. Novice fire control. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. Description. Allows you to control fire elements without using spiritual energy. Weak fire enhancement. Description. Enhances all fire technique strength by 50%. No activation required. Weak fire resistance. Description. Slightly increases your fire resistance. No activation required. Oh, I had a breakthrough. Am now a Spirit Master. Yuan looked at his hands with a slightly dazed look on his face, feeling his body overwhelming with energy and strength. What? Feng Yuxiang stared at Yuan with a gawking look on her face, as she didn't expect him to suddenly break through, much less a breakthrough without any enlightenment. Not even in her wildest dream could she have imagined that Yuan would reach Spirit Master without needing any enlightenment. This kind of talent was simply too terrifying. It shouldn't exist if she has to be honest. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. So Brother Yuan didn't need enlightenment to reach Spirit Master either, huh? Just where is Brother Yuan's limit if he even has one? Xiao Hua's defeated voice suddenly resounded, sounding like she was already used to it. What do you mean by that? Feng Yuxiang asked her. Brother Yuan also entered Spirit Warrior without any enlightenment. It was just like any other normal breakthrough for him. Xiao Hua said. Unbelievable. Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a dazed voice, and she continued, just what is your body made of, young master? Even if you ask me that, how am I supposed to answer that kind of question? Yuan responded with a bittersweet smile on his face. The most logical explanation would be the game's system that's allowing him to break through without needing any enlightenment. Another reason that could be causing this would be his unknown bloodline. Yuan summoned his status and looked at it. Cultivation, first level Spirit Master Legacy, none visit Light Novel Pub. Calm for a better experience bloodline, none physique, heaven refining physique physical strength, 39, 734 mental strength, 39, 975 soul strength, 51, 410 physical defense, 39, 710 mental defense, 40, 821 chi experience, / Huh. Why does my chi experience have so many question marks? Is the number so big that even the game is having trouble calculating it? Yuan wondered to himself after seeing it. How will he see how much chi he needs for the next level now? Visit Light Novel Pub. Calm for a better experience sometime later, Yuan said. Anyways, now that I am a spirit master, I no longer need to continue cultivating, so I'll just leave this place and find something else to do until the mystic realm. Young master, what about the fire controlling skill? Did you manage to obtain it after consuming the monster core? Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked him. Yuan nodded and said, yes, I got it. Feng Yuxiang didn't show much of a reaction after learning that Yuan had managed to overcome the small chance and obtain the ability to control fire without using his spiritual energy, mostly because she was still numb from her previous shock. I'm going to tell Elder Xian that I'm done here, Yuan said before retrieving the communication jade slip and calling Elder Xian. What's the matter, disciple Yuan? Elder Xian picked up a couple of moments later than usual. Senior Xian, I just had a breakthrough and reached Spirit Master. What should I do now? Yuan asked him. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. However, Elder Xian did not respond even a good minute later, making Yuan wonder if Elder Xian was still there. Elder Xian? Did you hear me? Huh? What did you just say? I'm sorry, but I don't think I heard you correctly just now. Did you say that you'd reached Spirit Master? Elder Xian finally responded, his voice filled with disbelief. Yes, that's right. I've just reached Spirit Master. Yuan repeated. After another moment of silence, Elder Xian spoke loudly, but he wasn't talking to Yuan, Sect Master. He did it. He reached Spirit Master. What? Is that true? Long Yijin's shocked voice, which was also filled with excitement, quickly responded. Yes. I am speaking to him right now. Elder Xian said. Visit Light Novel Pub. Come for the best novel reading experience, ha ha ha. This is great. Bring him here. Long Yijun then said. Yes, Sect Master. Elder Xian said before returning to Yuan, stay right there. I'll be there in a few to pick you up. The Sect Master would like to speak with you. Okay, Yuan said before closing the connection. Meanwhile, at the Sect Master's headquarters, after Elder Xian left the place, Long Yijun looked at Gao Dongya and Xue Jie and said to them with a smile on his face, looks like you'll meet him sooner than expected. Gao Dongya swallowed nervously. I heard them talking about reaching Spirit Master. Don't tell me, he wondered inwardly. Meanwhile, Xue Jie had another thought in her mind, is it him? Could it really be him? That genius during the disciple examination? Chapter 276 Introducing the Team. A few minutes after he spoke with Elder Xian through the communication jade slip, Yuan could see a cloud in the distance approaching his location. A few more moments later, this cloud landed in front of Yuan with Elder Xian standing on top of it. First and foremost, allow me to congratulate you on your breakthrough, disciple Yuan. You don't see an 18-year-old spirit master every day if ever. Elder Xian said with a warm smile on his face, looking like a grandfather watching his grandchildren grow up. Thank you, Elder Xian, Yuan said. Come with me. I will take you to the Sect Master where you'll meet the other two disciples that will be participating in the mystic realm with you. Yuan nodded and stepped onto the flying treasure before they soared to the Sect Master's headquarters. They landed a few minutes later, and they walked into the building. "It's really you. I knew it." Xue Jie shouted in a surprised voice the moment she saw Yuan's black jade mask, even pointing at him with a trembling finger. Yuan turned to look at Xue Jie, and he mumbled, "Oh, you're the girl who accidentally leaked herself during Hey. Why are you bringing that up?" Xue Jie quickly interrupted him in a panicked manner, and she continued with a flushed face, "And that was entirely your fault. If you hadn't looked at me with those eyes, none of that would have happened. Visit lightnovelpub.com for a better experience." "Oh, right. The two of you have already met." Elder Xian remembered that Xue Jie was the one watching over Yuan during the Tablet of Comprehension exam. "Disciple Yuan, congratulations on reaching Spirit Master so quickly. Once again, you have exceeded my expectations." Long Yijuan suddenly said to him, shocking Gao Dongya and Xue Jie, who only noticed his immense aura after the mention. "Heavens! How long has it been since I last saw him when he was only at the 5th level of Spirit Warrior?" Xue Jie cried inwardly after seeing Yuan's overwhelming growth. Meanwhile, Gao Dongya stood in the background with an unreadable expression on his face. "Come over here, Disciple Yuan, so I can introduce you to these two who will be participating in the mystic realm with you," Long Yijuan said. Yuan nodded his head and went to stand beside Long Yijuan, who patted his shoulders and said, "This is Disciple Yuan, a disciple who recently joined the Dragon Essence Temple. And before you question his qualifications, allow me to tell you some of his achievements." Long Yijuan cleared his throat before speaking in a manner that sounded like he was bragging about his own son in public. "Disciple Yuan has not only managed to take 100 steps during the 3rd test at the Silver Pond but had also managed to achieve 100% comprehension at the final exam with the Tablet of Comprehension." "What? 100 steps in the Silver Pond?" Xue Jie exclaimed. However, Long Yijuan wasn't finished, and he continued in an even prouder-sounding voice, "That's not all. Do you remember what happened recently at the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower? The most up-to-date novels are published on lightnovelpub.com. Impossible. You don't mean he's..." Gao Dongya couldn't help but open his mouth after hearing this obvious hint. "That's right. Disciple Yuan was the one who cleared all 100 floors, becoming the first person in the sect's history to achieve such a feat." Gao Dongya and Xue Jie swallowed nervously upon hearing this, and they recall the rumors that had been spreading around the sect regarding the challenge on the 100th floor. They slowly turned to look at Yuan and his clear eyes that glistened brightly behind his black mask. "Now introduce yourselves," Long Yijuan asked the two disciples. Xue Jie nodded and went first. "Even though we have already met before, allow me to introduce myself again. I am Xue Jie, currently 20 years old, and I specialize in dagger techniques." "Oh." Yuan raised his eyebrows after learning that Xue Jie also uses daggers, taking him by surprise. After Xue Jie's introduction, the handsome young man standing beside her said in a calm voice, "Gao Dongya, 25 years old, and am a swordmaster. Now that you know each other, I want you three to familiarize yourselves with each other before the mystic realm, as you are required to work in a team inside," Long Yijuan said to them. Updated from lightnovelpub.com, and then he continued, "Do any of you have any questions for me?" Yuan quickly raised his hands and spoke, "When is the mystic realm?" Long Yijuan quickly replied, "The mystic realm will happen in 4 days, but we will leave the sect 2 days before that since the place is very far from our current location, so you all have 2 days to prepare yourselves. Of course, since the mystic realm doesn't allow you to bring any treasures with you inside, you shouldn't need any luggage. To begin with," he continued. "I would tell you more about the mystic realm, but there have been rumors about the mystic realm being somewhat different from the previous years, that something big has happened in the upper heavens, so I can only tell you what the previous mystic realms have been like." Thus, Long Yijuan proceeded to tell them about the experiences the previous disciples had experienced inside the mystic realm. By the time Long Yijuan was finished, many hours had passed with half of the day already done. "Anyways, this is all I know about the mystic realm. It may or may not be helpful information," Long Yijuan said to them, and he continued, "I will contact you again in 2 days when we leave or when I need you again. Sometime later, Yuan and the other two disciples left the sect master's headquarters. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Hey, how about we go eat something at the Dragon Pavilion? My treat. Shuijie suddenly said shortly after they left, her gaze directly on Yuan as she spoke, almost like there was a deeper meaning behind her words. I'll pass. Gao Dongya didn't hesitate to refuse before walking away. Chapter 277 Shuijie. What an unfriendly fellow, even though the sect master just told us to connect with each other. Oh well, at least I won't be using more contribution points. Shuijie said as she walked. Gao Dongya walked away. A few seconds later, Shuijie returned to Yuan and asked him again, what about you? Want to come? Yuan nodded his head, I will go with you. There was no way he'd refuse food, especially if it was free. Of course, he also wanted to know a little bit more about the disciples that will be participating in the mystic realm with him. Great. Then let's go. Shuijie began walking shortly later, and she thought to herself, unless he plans on eating with that mask on, I will finally be able to see the face behind that mask. The two of them arrived at the Dragon Pavilion sometime later, and they were taken to the best seat in the place. Once they were seated, Shuijie said, go ahead. Order whatever you want. I'll pay for it. Yuan nodded his head and proceeded to pick every item on the menu, shocking the waitress there and Shuijie, who stared at him with wide eyes. Despite being a core disciple and unlike Fei Yuyan, Shuijie did not have many contribution points to spare since she would use them to exchange for treasures to power up, and she didn't expect Yuan to order that much food, putting her in a difficult spot. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. You. Can you really eat all of that? Or are you just messing with me? Shuijie asked him after the waitress went away to get the order. Why would I mess with you? Of course, I can eat all of them. Why else would I order them? Yuan quickly responded. Shuijie was left speechless by his serious voice. After a moment of silence, she said, changing the topics, anyways, how long has it been since you joined the sect? A month? Yuan nodded and said, about. What have you been doing since then? Well, besides challenging the carp leaping over Dragon's Gate Tower and becoming the first person to have cleared all 100 floors? Yuan had to think a little before he responded. And after thinking for a minute, Yuan realized that he didn't really do much in the sect besides the zither competition and participating in a match. Well, I participated in a music competition and I fought another disciple on the stage, he finally said. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. You fought another disciple? Who would dare to fight you? Shuijie seemed more surprised that anyone would fight a genius like him than anything. Someone named Wu Laohu, I think. Wu Laohu. Never heard of him. Shuijie shrugged. As a core disciple, they usually don't pay attention to matters outside of the inner court, so while Wu Laohu was quite famous within the outer court, he was essentially a nobody in the inner court. Sometime later, the waitress returned with the food. Well, go on. I'd like to see you eat all of them. Shuijie said to him, anticipating to see Yuan remove his mask. Yuan nodded, and as Shuijie had expected, he removed his black jade mask so he could eat properly. So young. Shuijie's jaw dropped upon seeing Yuan's young and handsome face. How old are you again? Me? I'm 18 years old. Yuan casually responded. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. 18? Shuijie cannot imagine being 18 years old and a spirit master at the same time. What kind of talent would that take? If only Shuijie knew that Yuan had only started cultivating recently. Who knows how she, or anyone in this world would react if they knew. While Shuijie stared at him silently, Yuan went to eat his food before it turned cold, quickly consuming everything on the table. Did my capacity increase after becoming a spirit master? Yuan wondered inwardly after realizing that he was not full despite eating so much food that would normally give him a full belly. Meanwhile, Shuejie was full after a single dish. "Thank you for this meal, disciple Shui," Yuan said to her after wiping his lips with a warm towel. Don't even mention it," she responded in a defeated voice. After paying the bill with what felt like a bleeding heart, Shuejie said, "I guess I will see you in 2 days when the Mystic Realm begins. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience." Yuan nodded. "See you later." By the time they left the Dragon Pavilion, the sky was already beginning to darken. Yuan went straight home, where he tested the effects of becoming a spirit master. The first he did was test his divine sense, and to his surprise, the area of effect for his divine sense more than doubled, perhaps even tripling compared to before, allowing him to see even Min Li's house, the entirety of it. "Wow! I can see so many things at once," Yuan mumbled in a voice of awe. "Just wait until you're a spirit grandmaster or higher, young master. In the upper heavens, there are people who can cover even an entire city with their divine sense." Feng Yuxiang said to him. Yuan nodded. After familiarizing himself with his new profound strength, Yuan logged off for the day to test out his divine sense in the real world, but alas, he was still unable to fully release his divine sense. "Welcome back, Meishio," Yuan said to her after she returned from school. Updated from Light Novel Pub, I'm back, Yuan. "You don't have school tomorrow, right?" "That's right," Meishio said. "Then would you like to play with me tomorrow? The Mystic Realm is in a few days, and I would like to hand the divine grade treasure to you so that you can sell it," Yuan said to her. "I promised the young lady that I would visit her tomorrow morning, but I will play the game once I return," Meishio said. "Okay." Meishio went to prepare dinner later, and Yuan cultivated while he waited. Sometime later, Meishio returned to the room with dinner. Chapter 278 Visiting Yu. After feeding Yuan, Meishio went to do her own things until she went to sleep. Meanwhile, Yuan stayed up all night to cultivate like usual. "I don't even remember when was the last time I got 2 nights of sleep in a row," Yuan thought to himself, but oddly enough, he didn't feel any different despite lacking sleep. In fact, he felt more refreshed and energetic than ever. The following morning, after feeding Yuan breakfast, Meishio returned to the main house to meet with Yu. "Hey, Meishio. Even though we saw each other at school yesterday, it feels longer than that," Yu said to her. However, Meishio didn't immediately respond, and she looked around the room with raised eyebrows. After a moment of silence, she spoke. "Young lady, when was the last time you cleaned your room? It's a mess in here." "You're exaggerating, Meishio," Yu casually said. Meishio turned to look at the clothes laying on the floor as well as the dirty desk in the distance. Normally, Meishio would be the one who cleans Yu's room daily, but since she no longer lives here and spends most of her time with Yuan, that has become impossible. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Young lady, did you even find someone to replace me?" Meishio suspected that nobody was taking care of Yu in her place because no servant would dare to allow such an unkempt appearance in her room. After a moment of silence, Yu spoke. "I didn't find a replacement for you." "What? Why?" Meishio asked her in a genuinely surprised voice. "Think about it, Meishio. If I replaced you, my parents would know that you're currently taking care of Brother Tian, and there's a good chance that they'll tell you not to help him. Therefore, I cannot replace you no matter what." Yu gave Meishio an explanation on why she didn't find another servant. "Oh." Upon realizing the situation, Meishio nodded her head. "However, that doesn't excuse your messy room, young lady. I am going to clean up now," Meishio said, and she immediately went to tidy up the room. Seeing this, Yu said with a smile on her face, "I didn't want to take any more of your job away from you, so I purposefully refused to clean my room so you can do it." Meishio was speechless. Does Yu intend on leaving her room dirty for an entire week just so she could clean it for her? That's unbefitting of her image. Visit Light Novel Pub. Come for a better experience. What about the other things? Who will take care of you? Meisho then asked her. I don't need anybody to take care of me. I have been taking care of Brother Tian while taking care of myself for many years now, as if I need someone to do everything for me. And I don't trust anybody else to be so close in my life. They'll definitely tell my parents about everything I do. By the way, speaking of Brother Tian, how's he doing recently? Did anything significant happen? Not that I know of. Meisho shook her head as she folded Yu Rao's clothes. Oh, I see. Oh, when you go back, can you tell Brother Tian that players who have been approaching the Dragon Essence Temple are being beaten by the disciples of that sect so they cannot approach the place? Though, I think he should still try to hide his identity since we can never be too careful. Meisho looked at her with a still face before speaking. Young lady. Wouldn't it be better if you spoke to him yourself? Yu Rao immediately frowned and said, and how am I supposed to do that, Meisho? I cannot even meet with Brother Tian. While I can sneak a meeting with him, I shouldn't do something so risky when everything is still heated regarding Brother Tian's situation. But you don't need to see the young master to speak with him, young lady. You can always call him. There's no way the masters would find out that way. Meisho said. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Yu Rao immediately turned dead silent, and she stared at Meisho with a shocked expression on her face, looking like she'd just realized something. Why didn't I think of that before? My brain must have stopped working after being told that I could no longer meet with Brother Tian. I totally forgot about this method. Yu Rao exclaimed a moment later. Thank you for reminding me. Ah. But Brother Tian doesn't have a phone. Meisho, since you'll be with Brother Tian whenever I can call him, I'll just call your phone and speak with Brother Tian that way. Yu Rao then said. Meisho nodded. I understand. I'll call you later tonight after dinner, so make sure you're free by then. After cleaning Yu Rao's room, Meisho went to work outside a little just so the other servants won't be suspicious of her disappearance. Isn't that Meisho? Hey, Meisho. Where have you been lately? It feels like forever since I last saw you. One of the other servants called her out after noticing her. Meisho stopped sweeping the floor and turned to look at the middle-aged woman that was approaching her, and she spoke with a nonchalant look on her face. The young lady has assigned me with a project, so I spend most of my time outside now. The middle-aged lady nodded and said, it must be hard being the only person working for the young lady. However, it's definitely much better than working for that crippled thing. I cannot imagine being near him, much less taking care of him every day. I'm glad the masters finally got rid of him. It was long overdue. The young lady can also finally focus on her school and music without wasting her time on that thing. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meixia's grip on the broom subtly tightened when she heard the other servant's words, but she didn't say anything and remained silent. Hell, even her nonchalant expression remained still, acting like she wasn't affected by the other servant's clear disdain for Yuan. Chapter 279 Housekeeper. By the way, if you're still cleaning, you should hurry up. The housekeeper, your mother, shall be here to visit us in half an hour. The other servant said to her before walking away in a nonchalant manner. Mother, Meisho mumbled in a low voice. Indeed, visiting Yu Rao wasn't the only reason she returned today, as her mother, the head of the servants, was visiting today as well. 10 minutes later, after cleaning up the area outside of Yu Rao's room, Meisho went to the courtyard where many other servants were already gathered. There were about a dozen servants working at the house, and all of them were already standing in an orderly fashion in a straight line. It's been a while since the housekeeper visited us, and whenever she does, it's because something bad has happened. Not always. Sometimes she visits us to make sure things are in an orderly fashion. Of course, if she finds even the slightest mistakes, we'll get yelled at, and that happens every single time she visits. Even though the housekeeper had yet to arrive, these maids didn't dare to speak loudly, and they all mumbled to each other. Meisho ignored them and went to stand in the formation. The other servants went silent for a moment when they noticed Meishio. Out of all of the servants there, she was the youngest and most definitely the prettiest. Furthermore, Meishio worked directly with Yu Ro, the young lady, making her position above theirs automatically. This would, of course, cause some people to be jealous of her. However, knowing who Meixia's mother was, they didn't dare to badmouth her, as they feared the housekeeper more than the masters themselves. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. A few minutes later, much earlier than expected, a figure could be seen approaching them from a distance. It was a tall and pretty woman with black hair tied into a large bun behind her head, and she had a cold and serious expression on her face. At glance, one could see similarities between her and Meishio, such as their naturally nonchalant facial features and their somewhat distant aura. When the servants saw this woman's figure, they immediately straightened their bodies and faces. Once the housekeeper stopped walking and stood a few meters in front of the formation, the servants all bowed and greeted her simultaneously. "Good morning, senior housekeeper." The housekeeper didn't respond to their greetings and proceeded to walk and stand in front of the servant that was to the very right of the formation. Once the housekeeper stopped walking, the servant lifted her head and stood there like a statue. The housekeeper proceeded to inspect the servant's uniform and her appearance overall. Turn. The servant turned her body around at the housekeeper's command. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. Turn. A few moments later, the servant turned around, facing the housekeeper again. "Your collar is crooked, there's a strand of hair on your shoulder, and your shoes are dusty. Since when did we hire monkeys to work for the Yu family? Get out of my sight and fix yourself right now," the housekeeper said to the servant in a cold voice. "Yes, housekeeper." The servant didn't dare to complain despite being called a monkey, and she quickly left the scene. Once she finished inspecting the first servant, the housekeeper went to stand in front of the next servant and began inspecting her as well. The housekeeper continued to inspect the servants until all of them were checked. Turn. Meishio turned around in a smooth and graceful movement. Turn. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meishio turned around again. The housekeeper silently stared at Meishio for a moment before turning around and walking back to her original spot without saying a word. By the time the housekeeper finished her inspection, the servants that were told to leave have returned with their appearances corrected. Once everyone was back, the housekeeper said, "It appears that most of you have gotten complacent since my last visit, hence your disgraceful appearances. If I spot even a single mistake during my next visit, which will be unannounced, I will have everyone here retake their maid training. Of course, you can refuse, but that will be the end of your career in the Yu family." The servants there trembled after hearing the housekeeper's words. A few moments later, the housekeeper continued, "I will walk around the house in a moment to make sure you're not slacking on cleaning the household either." The housekeeper dismissed the servants a moment later, telling them to go back to work. However, just as Meishio began walking, she was stopped. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. You stay right here, Meishio." "Yes, housekeeper," Meishio responded before standing there in silence. Once all of the other servants disappeared, the housekeeper approached Meishio and said, "You don't seem any different than usual despite the situation." "I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, housekeeper," Meishio said. "You can drop the act with me, little girl. The young master was disowned and you're telling me that you don't feel anything?" The housekeeper said to her. "Is that why you visited today, mother?" Meishio asked her. "Yes, because I wanted to see your crying face, but it appears to me that you're not the least worried or saddened that he is no longer in your life. And to think that you used to motivate yourself using the young master whenever you were having difficulties during training." Meixia's eyebrows twitched upon hearing her mother's words. And her mother continued, "Or did you forget about it? If you forgot your purpose, why you became a servant in the first place, allow me to help you remember. You were originally trained to become the young master's personal servant and more. The reason you even managed to endure the hellish training at such a young age was because you wanted to be with him, by the young master's side." This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. You don't have to remind me because I remember it very well, mother," Meishio said after a moment of silence. Really? Because it doesn't look that way. Her mother stared at her with a mysterious glint in her eyes. Chapter 280 Meishio's Mother. Why do you even care, anyways? You usually don't talk about him. Furthermore, the young master is gone and there's nothing you nor I can do about it. Meishio said when her mother continued glaring at her like she did something wrong. Do you really not care about the young master? Did your feelings for him change after he became a cripple? I guess you're no different from the other maids, always filled with disdain towards him and forgetting who he used to be. Her mother shook her head. Meishio gritted her teeth after hearing her mother's words before shouting in a loud voice, "Don't compare me to those trash." Her mother remained a calm expression despite Meixius' unexpected outburst, or maybe because she expected Meixius' outburst that she didn't react. Regardless, she has always managed to break Meixius' nonchalant appearance with ease. I see. Her mother said in a nonchalant voice before turning around and walking away. Follow me, she suddenly said. Meishio didn't say anything and followed her mother inside the house. A few minutes later, they arrived in front of Yu Rao's room, something Meishio expected when she saw the direction they were walking in. Meixius' mother knocked on the doors immediately after they arrived, and she proceeded to stand in front of the doors in a manner that reeked of professionalism. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Meanwhile, Meishio stood beside her in a similar fashion. A few moments later, Yu Rao opened the doors. Greetings, young lady. Meixius' mother bowed to Yu Rao and greeted her. Meishio followed despite already meeting with Yu Rao before this. Hello, Miss Meifeng. It's been a while. Yu Rao returned the greeting in a graceful manner. May I come inside for a moment? Meifeng asked her. Of course. Yu Rao nodded. Meishio and her mother, Meifeng, entered Yu Rao's room a moment later. Upon entering the room, Meifeng immediately started looking around the room with her sharp gaze, clearly looking to see if the room was clean. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Don't worry, Miss Meifeng. Meishio has been doing her job flawlessly. Yu Rao said with a smile on her face. I just wanted to make sure that my daughter hasn't been slacking on her work. Meifeng nodded her head, yet she still continued to inspect Yu Rao's room for another minute afterward, even wiping uncommon areas behind Yu Rao's desk with her fingers to see if there was any dust. Anyways, why did you come here today, Miss Meifeng? Yu Rao asked her as she took a seat on the bed. Meifeng then said, I just wanted to make sure you were doing fine, young lady. Even though I work at the main household now, I used to be your caretaker. Is it weird for me to come by once in a while to see your condition? Yu Rao showed a bittersweet smile before speaking. As expected, you're here because of my brother's situation. I'm sorry you had to go through this, young lady. Don't tell the masters I said this, but I really don't think the young master deserved to be disowned. Even though he's still so young, had already worked enough and deserves to rest for the rest of his life. Meifeng's words dumbfounded Meishio. In her mind, there was no way her mother could show such compassion, at least she has never seen it before. If there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. Yu Rao nodded, thank you, Miss Meifeng, but I am fine. Updated from Light Novel Pub. After a moment of silence, Meifeng suddenly asked, the young master, where is he right now? I cannot imagine leaving someone in his condition in the street and without a place to stay. Furthermore, his caretaker. Who's currently taking care of him? That's. Yu Rao immediately hesitated on responding. Seeing this, Meifeng continued, I know you're hesitant about telling me anything, and rightfully so. However, I am truly worried about the young master's well-being. You may not know this, but I was the young master's personal caretaker at one point. Really? Yu Rao's eyes widened at Meifeng's words. Meishio was also surprised to hear this since she doesn't remember seeing her mother assist Yuan before. I was only assigned to him for a very brief moment, but during that short time, I've come to adore the young master and his talents that took the world by storm. I wanted to continue being his caretaker so I can personally witness his growth as a prodigy, but there were too many other things that needed my attention, so I was eventually reassigned by the masters. Mei Feng said with a disheartened look on her face, her voice sincere. However, before Yu Rou could even respond, Mei Feng continued, I'm sure the young master has a place to stay now, but that's not what I'm worried about. I am worried about his caretaker more than anything else. In fact, I have someone in mind. If you allow me, I will have that person take care of the young master. That's a bit. Yu Rou didn't know how she should respond, and her eyes subconsciously turned to look at Meishio for help. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Calm as the head of all servants who could spot dust even from across the room, there was no way Mei Feng could have missed the obvious shift in Yu Rou's eyes. I see. It's no wonder why I don't feel any sadness coming from you, Meishio. Mei Feng slowly turned around to look at her daughter with a narrowed gaze, and she continued in a slow but clear voice, it's because you were never separated to begin with. You are the young master's new caretaker, am I right? Meishio swallowed nervously after hearing Mei Feng's words that were right on the spot. Miss Mei Feng. This is... Yu Rou also began panicking. What if she tells Meishio that she cannot take care of Yuan? What if she assigns another individual to be Yuan's caretaker? That's right, mother. I am currently taking care of the young master. Do you have a problem with that? Meishio responded, not even bothering to hide the fact. Chapter 281 Yellow Envelope. Do I have a problem, you say? Since when did you obtain the courage to speak back to me in such a manner? Mei Feng narrowed her eyes at Meishio. However, Meishio did not back down and continued to stare at her own mother with a serious expression on her face. Miss Mei Feng. Yu Rou called out to her with cold sweat running down her own back. After a moment of awkward silence, Mei Feng finally spoke with a slight smile on her face. No, I don't have any problems. In fact, I was going to help you volunteer to be the young master's caretaker. Really? Yu Rou was surprised by Mei Feng's approval. Mei Feng nodded and said, when I couldn't stay by the young master's side, I thought that I could perhaps have Meishio stand by his side in my stead. That's why I suggested training her in the first place. Meixia's eyes widened with surprise. While Shed agreed to take the training of her own will, she didn't know of her mother's intentions until today, and it was quite shocking, to say the least. Are you not worried about my parents saying something, Miss Mei Feng? I doubt they'll allow your daughter to take care of Brother Tian. Yu Rou suddenly asked her. Yes, I am. Hence, why I will be giving you two choices now, Meishio. Mei Feng said, and she stared at Meishio dead in the eyes with a serious expression. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. 1. You will remain in the Yu family and continue serving the young lady as her servant. However, you are not allowed to take care of the young master, as there is no way the masters would allow you to do that. Or you can continue being the young master's caretaker. However, if you choose this path, you will have to leave the Yu family and stop being the young lattice caretaker. It's either the young master or the young lady, you can't have both. Which will you pick? Meixia's eyes widened with shock upon being given these two options. However, to Mei Feng and Meixia's surprise, Yu Rou was the first to speak, and she said in a resolute voice, Meishio, you must pick Brother Tian. I can take care of myself, but Brother Tian, he cannot do that. If I leave the Yu family, what will happen to school? Meishio suddenly asked. Of course, you will no longer be able to attend the same school as the young lady, as you're only there because of the Yu family. However, if you're willing to pay the school fees by yourself, you'll still be able to attend the school like normal. Meishio frowned. Paying the school's fee by herself? Even with her savings, she won't last until the end of the year if she had to pay for such a prestigious school by herself. I know this is a difficult choice for you, but you cannot continue to sneak around. The masters will eventually find out that you're helping the young master behind their backs, and the punishment for that will be much worse than just leaving the Yu family. Hell, even my position may be at risk. Mei Feng said. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. And she continued, if you choose to leave the Yu family to take care of the young master, I'll also try to support you however I can. As for the young lady, I believe her when she says that she can take care of herself. Meisho, do you even have to think about this? You need to pick Brother Tian. As for your school, well, think of something. Yuro continued to urge her. Meisho suddenly closed her eyes, and memories of her childhood with Yuan quickly flowed into her head. What's wrong, Meisho? Did you mess up again? Come here, you can cry on my shoulders. Yuan's childish voice resounded in her head. Crying again? Here, do you want some chocolate? It'll make you feel better. Your training is almost done. Congratulations. Let's both do our best, okay? Meisho opened her eyes after a long minute of silence before walking in front of Yuro. After taking a deep breath, Meisho lowered her body and bowed to Yuro. I'm sorry, young lady, but I have decided to leave the Yu family. Please forgive me. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. A smile appeared on Yuro's face, and she nodded. Thank you for your years of dedication and hard work, Meisho. Please take care of Brother Tian from now on. I will definitely repay you in the future. Sometime later, Meifeng said, I will let the masters know of your departure later, Meisho. She then turned to look at Yuro and continued, Young lady, if you don't mind, can I visit the young master? I haven't seen him in years. Yuro nodded and said, Meisho, you can bring Miss Meifeng to see Brother Tian when you leave. I'll have the other servants pack your things so you don't have to worry about that. Thank you, young lady. Don't call me that anymore, Meisho. You're no longer working for me and I am no longer your young lady. Call me Sister Ro. That's. I understand, Sister Ro. Meisho said to her after a slight hesitation, feeling a little bit odd afterward. After talking with Yuro for a little bit longer, Meisho left the place with Meifeng. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub. Once she was alone, Yuro laid on the bed with a dazed look on her face. Not just Brother Tian, even Meisho is gone now, leaving me all alone in this place. Even though she personally encouraged Meisho to leave, Yuro couldn't help but shed some tears from Meixia's departure. After a moment of silence, she mumbled, maybe I should just leave this place and go with Brother Tian and Meisho. Yuro then got off the bed and walked to her desk. After unlocking one of the drawers with a key, Yuro used another key to unlock a box that was inside the drawers, retrieving a large yellow envelope that had a white label that read Certificate of Adoption. Yuro carefully opened the envelope that appeared to have already been opened before and stared at the certificate after taking it out, her expression as calm as a still pond. After staring at the certificate and a certain name on it for a few moments, Yuro placed it back inside the envelope and locked her drawers before leaving her room with a gentle smile on her face. Chapter 282 Apology. After leaving the house, Meisho brought her mother to Yuan's apartment in a limousine. Of course, this limousine belonged to Meifeng despite her status as a servant, as she was only second in rank in the Yu family, directly below Yuro and her parents. The young master is currently living in this apartment? Meifeng raised her eyebrows upon arriving at the place. While the apartment wasn't too bad, it wasn't fitting for someone like Yuan, at least that's what Meifeng thought. In her mind, a genius like Yuan, someone who can literally make money rain with his godlike musical talents, doesn't deserve to live in an apartment with hundreds of other individuals. Sometime later, they entered the elevator and quickly made their way to the 17th floor. Clack. Meisho opened the door to 17F with her keys and said, Young master, I'm home. Yuan, who was cultivating while waiting for Meixia's return, was puzzled to hear the words young master come out of her mouth when she seemed to have gotten used to calling him Yuan. However, Yuan realized something was amiss when he heard two sets of footsteps entering the apartment. Did Yuro come? No, these footsteps are too gentle. Yuan wondered to himself who this visitor could be if not Yuro. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Young master, you have a visitor, Meisho said to him from outside his room after gently knocking on his doors. Who is it? Yuan asked. Young master, it's me. Mei Feng quickly responded in an unbelievably soft voice. Miss Mei Feng? Yuan immediately recognized her mature voice despite many years of not hearing it. May I come inside? Mei Feng asked him from outside. Why yes. Please, come inside. Mei Feng turned to look at Mei Xiu and said to her with a serious expression, stay out here. I want to speak with him privately. Although she was hesitant to leave Yuan alone with her mother, she couldn't find the strength to refuse and nodded her head. Mei Feng approached the doorknob with her hands, and after taking a deep breath, she turned the handle and opened the door. Visit Light Novel Pub. Calm for the best novel reading experience. Upon entering Yuan's room and closing the door, Mei Feng turned to look at the young man lying on the bed. Young master, Mei Feng was surprised to see Yuan's healthy complexion, but she didn't think too much about it for now and decided to kneel beside the bed on both her knees. Miss Mei Feng, what are you doing here? Yuan was worried that his adopted parents might have found out about Mei Xiu helping him, hence why her mother was here. No, the masters don't know about my presence here. You can relax. I am not here to separate Mei Xiu from you, I can't. As though she could see through his worries, Mei Feng reassured him of his worries in a gentle voice. Then why are you? I'm here to apologize to you, dear young master. Mei Feng suddenly reached for one of Yuan's hands and held it close to her heart, treating it as though it was some kind of fragile treasure. Apologize? What for? Yuan asked her in a truly puzzled voice. For everything. Mei Feng sighed, and she continued, if I hadn't shown your musical talents to the masters, they wouldn't have made you play for the family, and you would have kept your childhood at the very least for a few more years. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. However, because I showed the masters your talents, they adopted you and essentially made you into a slave whose only purpose in life was to play music for the family, and it's entirely my fault that you had to sacrifice your childhood, yourself, with nothing in return. You earned the Yu family countless fame and wealth, but what did you get in return? Not only did you lose your ability to see at a young age, but you also lost your ability to move shortly after. And now, a few years later, even the family that you supported and helped rise to the peak of the music world abandoned you. Furthermore, I even stopped visiting you because of this guilt, as I could not bear seeing the young master in such a condition. I know that there's nothing I can say or do that will get rid of this sin, nor do I expect to be forgiven, but please, even if you hate me, do not blame Mei Xiu for any of this. She's an innocent girl who did her best at a very young age, even if I scolded her a dozen times a day just so she could be by your side when I could not. If you have to hate someone, hate me, who brought you into the Yu family. Tears flowed from Mai Feng's eyes as she cried in silence since she didn't want Yuan to realize that she was crying. After a moment of silence, Yuan spoke in a soft voice, Miss Mei Feng, I don't blame you for any of this, much less hate you. There's no way I can hate you. After all, if not for you, I would have never met my sister Yu Ro, Mei Xiu, and many others. And even if you didn't tell the Yu family about me, they would have still learned about me sooner or later since that video was widespread. While I do blame someone for this, it's definitely not you. As for my childhood, even though I had spent most of it playing music for the Yu family, I didn't see it just as playing for the Yu family. Yu Ro, Mei Xiu, you, and everyone who watched me perform. It's because of your smiles when I play the instruments that I play them. Fame? Wealth? I don't care about any of that. Young master, the most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. The tears that had begun to stop suddenly started flowing again for Mei Feng, and she began crying in a suppressed manner, as she was unable to resist her tears this time. Miss Mei Feng, this may sound weird, but can you lay your head on my hand? Yuan suddenly asked her. Mei Feng didn't think too much about it and followed his instructions, planting her cheeks on his warm hands. Feeling the warmth of Mai Feng's face on his palm, Yuan gritted his teeth and mustered all of his strength and cultivation to move his fingers that were closest to Mai Feng's eyes, wiping some of the tears from her soaked eyes, shocking her greatly once she realized what had just happened. Why, young master, you, just now. Mei Feng lifted her head to stare at Yuan, who had a gentle smile on his face at this moment. Chapter 283 The Perfect Solution. Hearing Mei Feng's gasping voice, Yuan spoke with a smile on his face. Even if my childhood was taken away from me, at least I still have my future, and I won't give up until I can personally leave this bed with my own strength. Young master, are you really? Mei Feng almost couldn't believe what had just happened. Did he just move his fingers? Even if it was just slightly, that is a huge improvement and a hopeful sign that he might actually recover in the future. Yes, I am really recovering. But please keep this a secret for now, as I want it to be a surprise for Mei Xiu and Yu. Yuan said in a low voice. I will keep it a secret. I won't tell a single soul even if it's the last thing I do, I promise. Mei Feng nodded her head with excitement, causing the tears on her face to drop faster. After spending a few minutes wiping her tears and calming down, Mei Feng spoke. Young master, what do you plan on doing now that you're no longer part of the Yu family? Well, you're definitely recovering. It's going to be difficult without the Yu family's support and resources. And she continued, if you need money, just let me know and I'll do my best to support you. It's okay, Miss Mei Feng. I already have a plan. However, I am worried about one thing. What are you worried about, young master? Is there anything I can do to help? I don't know if you can help or not, but I am worried that Mei Xiu might get in trouble if the Yu family learns that she's helping me, which might affect you as well, and I don't want that to happen. Do you know of any solutions? Yuan asked her. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. I see. To Yuan's surprise, Mei Feng actually began chuckling at his question, and he wondered if Head said something funny. My dear young master, I have the perfect solution for that, one that won't cause any trouble for Mei Xiu even if the masters find out, Mei Feng said a moment later. Really? Yuan reacted with excitement. What could this solution possibly be? It sounded too good to be true. Yes, would never lie to you, young master. Anyways, the solution to all of this is to have Mei Xiu leave the Yu family, so even if she decides to work for you, they cannot complain about it. Mei Feng said, immediately leaving Yuan speechless. Am Mei Xiu leaving the Yu family? I don't think I can be that selfish, taking Mei Xiu away from Yu. And what about Mei Xiu? What if she doesn't want to do that, and I won't force her either? Yuan quickly said. You don't have to worry about any of that, young master. In the first place, Mei Xiu was trained to become your caretaker, and lastly, she has already agreed to leave the Yu family to be by your side. Mei Feng finally revealed to him the situation. Wait, what? Mei Xiu decided to leave the Yu family? What about Yu? Yuan mumbled in a shocked voice. Indeed, Mei Xiu has already left the Yu family. I will be notifying the masters later today. As for the young lady, she also agreed with this, even urging Mei Xiu to leave the family. Mei Feng said. Visit Light Novel Pub. For the best novel reading experience. Don't know what to say, really. Yuan sighed, and he continued, I just don't want to burden Mei Xiu any more than I already am. A burden, huh? Mei Feng pondered for a moment before speaking again. How about this, young master? Let's ask Mei Xiu what she thinks. Mei Feng then stood up from her kneeling position and took a moment to fix her appearance before going outside to call for Mei Xiu. Come here, Mei Xiu. The young master would like to speak with you. Mei Feng said to her, who was standing near the entrance of the apartment. Once they were inside Yuan's room together, Mei Feng spoke. Mei Xiu, the young master is worried that he might be a burden to you. Tell him the truth. Mei Xiu nodded her head before speaking. I enjoy taking care of the young master, and I do not see the young master as a burden. There you have it, young master. Mei Xiu herself has spoken. If you still doubt it, you're going to hurt Mixia's feelings. I see. Yuan mumbled in a somewhat dazed voice. Anyways, Mei Xiu will no longer be part of the Yu family, and she will be your caretaker starting today. Mei Feng said before turning to look at Mei Xiu. As for school, if you wish to continue attending school, then I will try to work something out. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Meishio nodded her head. Once everything was settled, Meifeng looked at her watch and said, I don't have much time left here, but before I leave, I need to make sure that you haven't forgotten your training and that you're taking care of the young master properly. Therefore, you're going to show me how you take care of the young master right now. Right now? But what am I supposed to do? The young master already ate breakfast. Meifeng stood still for a moment before moving to wipe Yuan's forehead with her finger. She then said, Look, the young master is sweating. I want you to change his clothes, and while you're at it, wash his body. Mixia's eyes widened after hearing her mother's words. While she doesn't mind changing Yuan's clothes, washing Yuan's body in front of her mother is an entirely different story, especially if the last incident were to repeat itself. Why are you hesitating? If you're not going to take care of the young master properly, I won't hesitate to replace you. Meishio swallowed nervously, but she didn't dare to refuse her mother. Therefore, she could only nod her head. Thus, Meishio began removing Yuan's clothes whilst Meifeng stood in the background and silently watched her every movement. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. This reminded Meishio of her childhood when she was still in training, and just like currently, her mother would watch her from a distance, calling out on every minor mistake she makes. Chapter 284 Does it feel good? Meishio, why are you removing the young master's clothes now? Meifeng suddenly stopped Meishio before she could even remove Yuan's shirt. Seeing Mixia's puzzled expression, Meifeng said in a strict voice, Look around, do you see anything to carry the young master with? Or did you plan on letting the young master lie on the bed naked and wait until you're prepared? What if the young master catches a cold because of that? Mixia's eyes widened after realizing her fault, and she immediately stopped removing Yuan's clothes to prepare the wheelchair. I apologize, young master, Meishio said to him afterward. Don't worry about it, Meishio, Yuan said. However, Meifeng said, the young master may forgive you, but I won't be as forgiving as your mother and trainer. Sometime later, after she prepared the wheelchair, Meishio picked up Yuan and carefully placed him onto the wheelchair while he was fully clothed. Once Yuan was seated securely on the wheelchair, Meishio pushed him into the bathroom, where she proceeded to remove Yuan's clothes. Meifeng didn't say anything about this, but that's mostly because her attention was distracted by Yuan's refined body. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. How can someone who hasn't moved a muscle for so many years have such a refined body? Meifeng wondered to herself. While Meifeng stared at Yuan's naked body with a dazed look on her face, Meishio turned on the water for the shower head and began rinsing Yuan's body once she checked the temperature. Let me check the temperature as well, Meifeng suddenly said. Meishio nodded, handing the shower head to her mother. After feeling the temperature of the water for a moment, Meifeng handed the shower head back to Meishio without saying anything, which meant she has no complaints most of the time. After rinsing Yuan's body, Meishio squeezed some body wash onto a sponge and prepared to scrub Yuan's body. However, Meifeng quickly stopped her and said, Stop right there, Meishio. What's that in your hands? A sponge. Meishio responded in a puzzled voice. And you plan on washing the young master's fragile body with a sponge? Use your hands, Meifeng said to her. The most up-to-date novels are published on Light Novel Pub. Meishio swallowed nervously before nodding her head and tossing the sponge to the side. She began scrubbing Yuan's body with her bare hands shortly after, feeling surprised once she realized just how strong Yuan's body was. A few minutes later, after washing Yuan's body and legs, Meishio reached the area she feared the most, especially since her mother was still watching. After swallowing nervously, Meishio took a deep breath and began washing the final area with shaky hands. Of course, Meifeng didn't miss this, but she remained silent. Meifeng raised her eyebrows when a certain something on Yuan raised as well. Since he can move his limbs to a certain extent, it's safe to assume that he can feel again as well, right? Meifeng wondered to herself after seeing Yuan's wondrous reaction. Young master, how are you feeling right now? Does it feel good? Meifeng suddenly asked him, shocking Meisho to the point where she stopped moving to stare at her with wide eyes. What do you mean by that, Miss Meifeng? Yuan asked her in a genuinely puzzled voice. Visit Light Novel Pub, com for the best novel reading experience. Meifeng narrowed her eyes and pondered, so it's just his Buddhist natural reaction, huh? Or maybe he just doesn't understand it. Nobody taught him about that kind of stuff, after all. Never mind, young master, it was just a misunderstanding, Meifeng said a moment later before looking at Meisho. Why did you stop? Hurry up and continue washing the young master or hell catch a cold, she continued. Meisho nodded her head with a dazed look on her face, and she continued washing Yuan's body. Slow down. What if you damage it? That area is worth more than you can possibly fathom, Meisho. Meifeng said to Meisho when she noticed Mixius' rushing movements. I'm sorry, Meisho said. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to the young master. I'm sorry, young master. Yuan didn't know what they were talking about or why Meisho was apologizing, so he responded casually, don't worry about it. The source of this content is Light Novel Pub. Come. After taking another minute to wash Yuan's precious area, Meisho finally rinsed his soapy body with warm water before quickly drying him off with a small towel. A few moments later, they returned to Yuan's room. Meisho placed a blanket on the bed and placed Yuan on it before wiping the rest of his body. Once Yuan was fully clean and dried, Meisho helped Yuan into a new set of clothes. However, just as Meisho prepared to comb Yuan's hair with a brush, her mother interrupted and said, I will brush the young master's hair. Meisho didn't refuse and passed the brush to her, and Meifeng began brushing Yuan's long hair gently and professionally. Thank you, Meisho, Miss Meifeng. Words cannot describe my gratitude for your hard work. Yuan said to them afterward. Although we appreciate your feelings, we're not doing this for your gratitude, young master. Meifeng quickly responded. Even if that's the case, it won't change my feelings. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for the best novel reading experience. A few more minutes later, Meifeng's phone began ringing. It's my alarm, which means it's about time for me to leave. Although my visit today was shorter than I'd hoped, I will definitely return in the future to make sure everything is fine, young master. Meifeng said as she laid Yuan back onto the bed. Okay. After Meifeng left the apartment and going downstairs to where her car was parked, Meifeng looked at Meisho and said, Meisho, your dream, don't give up hope. Mixius' eyes immediately widened, and she asked in a mumbling voice, What do you mean by that, mother? However, Meifeng dodged her question and said with a rare smile on her face, keep working hard and you'll definitely be rewarded in the future. And before Meisho could say anything else, Meifeng entered the car and closed the door before driving away. After standing around for a few moments, Meisho went back upstairs. Are you ready to play with me, Meisho? Yuan asked her after she returned. Visit Light Novel Pub. Com for a better experience. Just a minute, young master. I promised the young lady that I'd call her when I come back so she could talk to you. Meisho said to him as she retrieved her phone and called Yuro. Chapter 285 Phone Call. Young master. Miss Meifeng is no longer here. You can call me Yuan again. Yuan said to Meisho. Oh, right. Meisho realized that she'd subconsciously reverted back to her old ways of addressing him after her mother's unexpected visit. After calling Yuro's cell phone, Meisho waited for her to answer. 1.5 rings later, Yuro picked up the phone and said, Hello? Meisho? Are you back at Brother Tian's place right now? Yes, young Sister Ro. I am with him right now, Meisho responded. Great. Can you pass the phone to him? You can even turn on the speaker. Meisho then turned on the speaker before placing the phone a few inches beside Yuan's head. Hello? Can you hear me? Yuro's voice resounded on the speaker. I can hear you, Yuro, Yuan said. Phew. It feels like forever since I last heard your voice. And I'm sorry that I didn't call you early, Brother Tian. Even though I cannot see you, the thought of calling you never entered my mind for some reason. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Don't worry about it. Is Miss Meifeng still there? No, she just left. I see. Then I will assume that Shed already told you everything regarding Wuxia's situation. That's right. Miss Meifeng told me everything. But are you sure about this, Yuro? What about your caretaker? Will you be fine alone? Are you underestimating me, brother? Did you forget that it was me who took care of you for the last couple of years? I think I can handle myself just fine. Yuro said in a prideful voice. I guess you're right, Yuro. I'm sorry for doubting you. I just wanted to make sure. Don't worry about it. Anyways, I promise Xia Jingyi that I will play in a bit, so let's get to the topic. After taking a deep breath, Yuro said, Dr. Wang called me last night, and he said that he'll be visiting you later this afternoon. I gave him your address, so he should be there soon. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Dr. Wang. I understand. Yuan said. Next, let's talk about your bank account. I have created another bank account for you and Meishio, so you'll both have access to it. As for the account that will be selling the items, I will send the information to Meishio after this call. Meishio, make sure you follow the instructions. Though, it's probably going to be impossible to completely hide Brother Tian's identity since he's selling a divine-grade treasure, something only player Yuan would have at this moment, especially when it's a zither and everybody knows that had participated in a zither competition. I understand, Meishio said. Anyways, this is all I have for now. I'll call you tomorrow morning again, Brother Tian and Meishio. Yuro said to them before hanging up the phone. Now, let's. Just as Yuan opened his mouth to speak, Wuxia's cell phone began ringing again. Did you forget something? Meishio asked Yuro, who called back for some reason. Right, I almost forgot to tell you that your stuff has been packed, and it will be shipped to your place tomorrow. Bye. Yuro said before hanging up again. For more, visit Light Novel Pub. Anyways, what should we do now? I wanted to play with you when you returned, but Dr. Wang will be arriving soon. Yuan sighed. It's okay, Yuan. Now that I have left the Yu family and school, I can stay home all day and play whenever you want. Meishio said to him. You don't plan on going to school? Yuan asked her in a surprised voice. I don't know yet, but I certainly don't have the funds to go to school since the Yu family won't be supporting me once they learn of my leave. If it's money you need, once we sell the divine rank treasure, we should have more than enough to pay for your school. Yuan said. The money from the game. Meishio mumbled. Don't you want to go to school, Meishio? You'll still get to see Yuro if you do. Yuan asked her. After pondering for a moment, Meishio said, I don't really want to go to school if I am being honest. It's a musical school filled with talented musicians, but I can't even play a single instrument, making me feel out of place. And while there are classes not related to music, I learned these things years ago when I was a child. The only reason I went to school was because of Sister Ro. If you don't want to go to school, there is really nothing I can do. Since that's the case, let's play cultivation online together until you find something you want to do. Yuan said to her after a moment of silence. Updated from Light Novel Pub. Okay. Meishio nodded. Half an hour later, Dr. Wang appeared before their doorsteps and knocked on the door. Oh, Meishio. I guess this is the right place since you're here. Dr. Wang greeted her with a smile. May I come inside the apartment and see the young master? Dr. Wang then asked. Meishio nodded. Young master, how are you feeling? Dr. Wang asked after entering his room. Dr. Wang, you can stop addressing me as young master now that I am no longer with the Yu family, Yuan said to him. But I have been calling you young master for almost 10 years now. It's going to be awkward for me to suddenly change it. I guess whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Yuan then said. Visit Light Novel Pub. Calm for a better experience, thank you, young master. Anyways, I have heard about your situation from the young lady and I really don't know what to say. Dr. Wang sighed, his gaze on Yuan a pitiful one. The Yu family, what are they thinking, disowning their own son, not to mention the condition you're in? I have been speechless ever since I learned about it. When I told my granddaughter about it, she even bawled her eyes out for an hour straight. Dr. Wang shook his head. After all, what kind of parents would throw away their disabled son out like trash because he didn't want to work for them? Chapter 286 Minimal Price. Don't worry, young master. Even if the Yu family abandoned you, I will never abandon my patients. Dr. Wang said in a sincere voice. Thank you, Dr. Wang, but just your feelings are enough, Yuan said to him after hearing his words. Young master, you do not have a choice in this. I had sworn to myself many years ago that I will never leave my patients' side until they're healed or take their very last breath trying. Dr. Wang said in a stern voice. And he continued, even though I won't get a penny out of the Yu family by doing this, it has never been about the money. Your fans, we all want to see your recovery and await the day you can stand on the stage again with an instrument by your side. Of course, now that you are no longer with the Yu family, you won't need to play the instrument. However, I still hope for that day. Yuan opened his mouth but realized he was left speechless by Dr. Wang's words. You don't have to say anything, young master. Furthermore, I will still do your monthly checkup at the hospital like always and you won't have to pay a single penny for it. Dr. Wang said. No, I cannot let you do that, Dr. Wang. I will pay you for the treatments. Yuan quickly said. No offense, young master, but where are you going to get the fund? Unless your parents left you a fortune before disowning you, I cannot see how you'll be able to afford it. I may not have the money now but I will definitely have it soon. Dr. Wang raised his eyebrows after hearing Yuan's confident voice, and he said in a defeated voice, I understand, but I won't ask you for it. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub. Come sometime later, Dr. Wang began his checkup on Yuan. Young master, your muscles have gotten more robust and refined since I last saw you, again. Dr. Wang said to him in a voice of disbelief afterward, as he has never seen anything like this before despite decades of experience in the field. What exactly is Yuan's body made of that allows him to grow such a refined body just from eating nothing but soup every day when even normal, functioning people would require a healthy diet and continuous exercise to maintain it, much less obtain it? Just like his unknown illness, his physique is a phenomenon of its own. After putting away his tools, Dr. Wang asked, Young master, how has your appetite been lately? Are 3 bowls of soup enough or do you think we should increase it? Dr. Wang also wanted to see if increasing his food intake would help strengthen his body even more. I think I can handle 4, even 5 bowls of soup now. Meishio, what do you think? Is that too much for you? Yuan asked her since she's the one who will be cooking it. It's okay. I can handle it. Meishio said. Then let's try 4 bowls of soup for 1 week to see if you can handle 5. Dr. Wang said. Visit Light Novel Pub. Come for the best novel reading experience, I understand, Yuan said. Anyways, as always, your body is perfectly healthy, young master. But if anything ever happens or you feel even the slightest discomfort, call my phone immediately. I will. Thank you again, Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang left the apartment shortly after. Yuan, before we play, let me look at the information Sister Rose sent me so I know how to sell the treasure, Meishio said to him after locking the door. Okay. I will wait for you inside the game. You're in the backyard of my living quarters, right? Yes. All right. I'll see you inside the game. Yuan said to her before going inside the game. After helping Yuan log into the game, Meishio went into her room and pulled out a thin laptop that she uses mostly for work. Visit Light Novel Pub. Come for the best novel reading experience. Once she found Yu Rao's message in the form of an email, Mei Xiu began reading about the website and how the place functions. The website is called CO Player Auctions. The account's information is, in order to sell an item you must, once you submit your item, after they confirm the item in-game, make sure you use a VPN when you're on the website just in case people want to track you down. The bank information is. Mei Xiu read through the message multiple times just in case she missed anything before going to the website CO Player Auctions. Visit lightnovel.com for a better experience. On the front page, after logging into a VPN and the account Euro provided for her, Mei Xiu clicked on the large cell that was right next to buy and trade and proceeded to type the information that Yuan had given her right before entering the game. Type, auction, item name, frozen jade zither, grade, divine, quality, low, type of treasure, instrument, continent, Eastern continent, time limit, 7 days, minimal price, follow current novels on lightnovel.com. Mei Xiu stopped at the minimal price since she was never given a number, and she pondered how much a divine grade treasure would be worth before giving up and searching the site for comparison. Of course, nobody was selling anything even close to divine grade, with the vast majority of them selling common items and spirit grade treasures. These people are selling spirit grade treasures for thousands of dollars? Mixia's eyes widened with surprise when she saw the players asking for thousands of dollars for a single spirit grade treasure. However, even more shocking was the auction place where there were treasures being sold for tens of thousands of dollars. After looking around the website for a couple of minutes, the highest grade of treasure she could find was an earth grade treasure that was being auctioned for a whopping $500,000, $500,000. Earth grade. According to Yuan, that's 2 grades below the divine grade, yet it's already being sold at such an astronomical price. After pondering for some time, Mei Xiu finally decided on a price and typed it into the website. Minimal price, 100 million. One normally wouldn't dare to put such an astronomical number price tag, fearing that nobody would bid, but Mei Xiu was used to seeing big numbers from working with the Yu family, hence why she clicked sent for review without hesitation. The source of this content is lightnovel.com. Chapter 287 Fake Request. A few seconds after Mei Xiu sent her auction request through the website, a staff member saw her request due to the request being tagged urgent because of the information Mei Xiu had put in. What do we have here? What? Divine grade treasure? The staff's initial thoughts after seeing Mixia's auction request was that it must have been done by a troll, since nobody has sold a treasure higher than earth grade since the game went online. However, no matter how ridiculous the request seemed, it was his job to look through it. A divine grade zither. An instrument. Eastern continent. Minimal price. 100 million. The staff's eyes bulged at the ridiculous price. However, if this was truly a divine grade treasure, that amount of money would be more justified. This request is obviously a troll, yet I am somehow hesitant to decline it for some reason. The staff was feeling perplexed about this situation. This account is not only an anonymous account but also a new one, and it's selling a divine grade treasure that no player would have at this stage of the game. No, there's actually one person who could possibly have a divine grade treasure, player Yuan. However, would he really sell his divine grade treasure so soon after getting it? Even if it's just an instrument, one wouldn't sell such a treasure unless they have something even more valuable. People say he's rich since he isn't swayed by the countless offers to reveal his identity, so he doesn't need the money. Yet here he is, selling a divine grade treasure. Yeah, right. Despite his suspicion that the request was fake, the staff didn't decline it immediately and sent a note to the anonymous requester. If you really have a divine grade treasure for sale, you wouldn't mind depositing $10,000 first as a precaution if it turns out to be fake and a waste of our time, right? Once we determine that you really have a divine grade treasure, we will not only return the $10,000 but even double it. If you don't respond within 24 hours, we will deem this request to be fake and delete it as well as ban your account. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Mei Xiu received a notification just as she prepared to close her laptop. New novel chapters are published on lightnovel.com. After reading the staff's note, Mei Xiu responded with a single word. Okay. Ding. The staff responded half a minute later with the instructions. Meishio followed the staff's instructions and deposited $10,000 on the site without hesitation. I have confirmed your deposit. Please tell us the city closest to your location so we can estimate how long it'll take for the nearest staff member to arrive for a meeting. The staff behind the computer typed this sentence with trembling hands since he didn't expect this supposed troll account to immediately deposit $10,000 without hesitation. Either this troll has a lot of money and is willing to spend $10,000 to waste our time, or he's the real deal. The staff swallowed nervously as he pressed enter to send the message to Meishio. Ding. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. I will let you know the location later. Since Meishio doesn't know anything about the game nor its location, she couldn't give the staff a location until she speaks with Yuan. However, the staff member responding to Meishio was shaking behind the desk in nervousness. Later? Why the hell are you making me wait? He couldn't help but curse out loud, causing his coworkers to look at him. What are you shouting about? They asked him. Come look at this. The staff pointed at his screen. The workers gathered around him and read his conversation with Meishio. What the? Divine grade treasure? Is this for real? Fuck. This must either be a troll or player Yuan. This content is taken from lightnovelpub.com. If this is a troll, he's one rich troll to spend $10,000 just to waste our time. Right? I was thinking the same. The staff said. But what if it's real? Then this auction will become the biggest auction on our website to date, even if we include the auctions from the old games. Too bad we won't know until he gives us a location and we meet to confirm the treasure. Should we notify the headquarters or the higher up about this? Not until we verify the treasure. While the staff waited nervously for Meishio to give them the location, Meishio herself laid on the bed with the helmet on her head. However, she didn't immediately enter cultivation online. Instead, she laid there with a nervous expression on her face. Follow current novels on lightnovelpub.com. I am going to see Yuan. And he's going to be completely healthy inside the game. Meishio swallowed nervously at this thought. After lying there for a couple of minutes, Meishio pressed the power button on the side of the helmet and entered cultivation online. Meanwhile, inside the game, Yuan said to Feng Yuxiang the moment he entered the game. Feng, come out. I'll feed you my blood now. Feng Yuxiang immediately appeared before him with her eyes glistening with anticipation. Yuan retrieved the starry abyss and quickly slit an opening on his finger. Here you. Before Yuan could even finish his sentence, Feng Yuxiang threw herself at him and immediately began sucking his finger like she was a vampire starved of blood. Xiaohua also appeared just in case Feng Yuxiang wouldn't be able to stop sucking Yuan's blood by herself. For more, visit lightnovelpub.com. How refreshing. Feng Yuxiang stopped sucking a few minutes later, releasing a satisfied sigh afterward. Are you okay, young master? Should I stop now? Feng Yuxiang looked at him with her eyes glowing a beautiful golden color. I'm okay. You can drink some more. Yuan nodded. Thank you, young master. Feng Yuxiang did not hesitate to place Yuan's finger back into her mouth and continued sucking his blood. A few more minutes later, to Yuan's surprise, Feng Yuxiang's hair suddenly changed colors, turning scarlet red with a fiery feeling to it. Feng Yuxiang released Yuan's finger from her mouth after another moment, completely oblivious to the changes in her appearance. Chapter 288 Meeting Meishio. Feng. Your hair. Yuan pointed at her scarlet hair with his finger that was still wet with Feng Yuxiang's saliva. What about my hair? Feng Yuxiang looked at her hair. What? It turned red. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in a surprised voice after realizing this, almost like it was completely unexpected. Is that supposed to happen? Yuan asked her a moment later. Yes. This means your blood is really working and suppressing the curse on me. Feng Yuxiang nodded her head. What about your powers, Phoenix? Xiao Hua asked her. Unfortunately, it's still completely sealed. However, I have no doubt that if I continue sucking the young master's blood, my curse will sooner or later disappear entirely. I have lived over 10,000 years like this. A few more years, even a few decades won't affect me. Feng Yuxiang spoke with enthusiasm in her tone. Once Feng Yuxiang stopped sucking Yuan's blood for a minute, the small opening on his finger closed by itself within seconds. As for Feng Yuxiang, her golden eyes and scarlet hair also returned to normal shortly after. Oh, right. Meishio will be joining us today, Yuan said to them. New novel chapters are published on Light Novel Pub, Meishio? Really? Feng Yuxiang seemed happy to see Meishio again. Yes, she should be here any minute. Yuan suddenly stopped speaking when he noticed a familiar presence appear in his backyard out of the blue. Even though he doesn't have his divine sense activated, after becoming a spirit master, he gained the ability to naturally detect others' presence as long as they were close enough and he wasn't too distracted. I think that's her, Yuan said in an excited voice before he stood up and walked towards the backyard. Once he reached the door that led to the backyard, Yuan took a deep breath and opened the door. Meanwhile, Meishio, who had just entered the game, turned around when she heard some noises coming from behind her. You are? Mixia's eyes widened with shock when she saw the handsome young man standing at the open door a few meters away from her. Visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. Although his appearance slightly differed from his body in the real world, Meishio could instantly tell that she was looking at Yuan at glance. Even though it has been at least a decade since she last saw him in such a perfect and healthy appearance, Meishio would never forget Yuan's lively face and unique charisma, especially his clear eyes that radiated with innocence. Meanwhile, in Yuan's eyes, other than her maid uniform and height, Meishio looked almost no different from how he remembered her. Long silky black hair, a neatly cut and even bang, crystal clear black eyes, and her unique characteristic, a naturally bored-looking face. Of course, she was much taller than the child from back then, not to mention her beautiful face that would not lose to even the top beauties in the Dragon Essence Temple such as Xian Wuhan or Fei Yuyan, perhaps even beating them in certain criteria. Yuan? Meishio mumbled his name in a dazed voice. It's been a while, Meishio. You're even taller than you Ro now. Yuan slowly approached her with a handsome smile on his face. Almost as though she didn't know what to do or how to react, Meishio remained standing there like a frozen statue until Yuan was practically standing in front of her. I have always wanted to do this, visit Light Novel Pub. For a better experience. Yuan suddenly opened his arms wide and embraced Meishio before speaking in a gentle voice. Thank you, Meishio, for taking care of you Ro and me for all these years. Yuan. Two streams of glistening tears suddenly appeared on Mixia's beautiful face, quickly staining Yuan's shoulders. Meishio slowly lifted her arms a moment later before returning Yuan's hug, yet she didn't say anything, only embracing Yuan in silence. They seem very close with each other. Feng Yuxiang mumbled in a mosquito-like voice as she peeked her head from inside the house and watched them hug each other. Xiao Hua also did the same without moving her mouth, watching their reunion in silence. Sometime later, Yuan removed his arms from her and stepped back. Meishio, let me introduce you to my friends first, Yuan said to her before turning around to look at the open door. Follow current novels on Light Novel Pub, Xiao Hua, Feng, come here, he said to them. A few moments later, the two of them left the house and stood beside Yuan. You already know her, but this is Feng Yuxiang, also known as Feng, and she's a phoenix. Yuan pointed to Feng and said. He then pointed to Xiao Hua and said, this is Xiao Hua, my first friend in this world, and she's like another little sister to me. Xiao Hua nodded her head at Meishio after the introduction. Now let me introduce you to Meishio. Yuan said, and he continued, Xiao Hua, Feng, this is Meishio, who is like a family member to me since we've always been near each other since childhood. And just like you Ro, she has helped me tremendously throughout the years. It wouldn't be an exaggeration even if I said that I wouldn't be alive now if it were not for the two of them and their support for me. Alongside Yu Ro, she's one of the most important people in my life. I've said this before, but any friends of the young master are also a friend of mine. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to come to me for help. Feng Yuxiang said to Meishiu. Xiao Hua Tu. This content is taken from Light Novel Pub. It's nice to meet all of you. Meishiu nodded. And then she focused her gaze on Yuan. Especially you, Yuan. A rare smile appeared on Mixia's face as she stared at his handsome face. Sometime later, they returned to the house and took a seat on the couches in the living room. Let me brew some tea for us. Feng Yuxiang said to them before going to the kitchen. Meanwhile, Yuan began telling Meishiu about his experience in cultivation, starting from the beginning when he first met with Xiao Hua to how he got this point. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.